Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Red Wing regular meeting Monday, February 27th, 2023 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as soon as the statement of intent comes up, join me in reading the statement of intent. We gather today in this room as one people to discuss and attend to the matters of Red Wing. Together as a government body and as community members,
we agree to treat everyone with courtesy, dignity, and respect. We will listen to all sides of an issue,
encourage participation, support each other, act with honor and accountability,
and inspire pride in our community. This we commit as we open this meeting.
Okay, everyone is here, so we move on to approve the agenda, and there's one item we'll remove is 7D, as Ron is out sick and can't present this evening.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion by Janie, second by Don. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have an agenda. We have no proclamations or recognitions this evening. So we'll move on to presentations and public comment. We'll start out with the presentations. First one is 7A, which is the flower basket discussion and proposal for the West End District.
Good evening. Troy Daniels from the West End District, Nace Hardware. Sean Chaska from SO Discounts. He's on the board of the West End District. And he's Glenn Witham from Bayside Tavern, also board member on the West End District. The West End District is now its own organization. We no longer affiliated with the downtown Main Street. We are looking to market and make the business district attractive to locals and tourists. And today we are here to talk about flower baskets down on Old West Main Street. We are raising funds through the businesses down there to buy the flower baskets. We're hoping the city would add the infrastructure on the poles they added last year, the reconstruction, and we are also asking for maintenance to be extended to Old West Main Street for the watering and fertilization of the baskets.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, is that something that we'd have to look at?
Well, generally, we don't take action when it's under a public comment. There was some information provided by staff, so if you have any questions from staff, it'd be good to ask that too, and then we can come back with a formal request for action at the next meeting.
Okay. Becky?
There was some information from staff. I don't see anything.
I didn't see anything.
Oh, Sean, I thought you had done.
I don't think it got attached.
Oh, okay. All right, never mind. We were looking at some of the cost estimates that we have, so we can provide that in the staff report.
All right, that'd be good. Thank you. All right.
One comment.
Yeah.
I do remember sometime last year we did talk when we were talking about various issues with baskets, and I did mention at that time that I was interested in making sure that the West End was under consideration, and I want that item from that conversation to be in the staff report, please.
At this time, we're looking at putting 20 to 25 baskets down there, which should only be one per pole, mostly due to the fact that sergeants can only supply 25 more baskets this year if they have left. So,
Okay. Is it your plan, let me ask though, is it your plan to eventually go to 2?
Hopefully.
Because that would
That's the plan.
change
We'd
the
like to.
infrastructure that goes
We
on
can
there.
get next year in time to get the baskets and ordered up.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Was any of that budgeted in that West End project to do these baskets? Does anybody know that offhand?
It wouldn't have been a part of a capital cost, it would be more of an operating cost, and we didn't put the baskets in the budget for this year.
What was budgeted with the project would be the, all the cost with the pole and the brackets and the hangers and all that. What we don't add is the piping until we know that we're gonna have flower baskets, which is always an add-on extra. You'll see a lot of poles throughout the community that have all of the basket, hangers, but no baskets on them, so we don't add the piping until that we're ready for that.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are we requesting more information on that to be on
Yes.
the next meeting? 'Cause-
Yes.
All right, just clarifying,
Thanks for
because I'm supportive of, I think to Evan's point, we talked about planters before and we talked about that need. So if we can get that information
Yeah.
for the next meeting to
It'd be
make a
good to get
decision on.
all the things we discussed, the planters and the baskets, so we know what we're looking at fully. Okay, we'll move on to 7B, which is the pickleball update.
You must be watching a little too much TV. I swore walking up here, I heard the music to Shark Tank. Good evening, I'm Tim Sletton.
I'm Dennis Yecke.
We represent the Red Wing Pickleball Group. Now you know you're somebody when you wear a t-shirt that has your group on it. Denny is an overall great guy, but don't let his boyish good looks fool you. He's not only a player in pickleball, he's a competitor. He'll be 91 years young this year. And he is not only a pickleball player, but he's a good guy.
Of course.
He's an inspiration for all of us who play with Denny. He's a great friend, and we wouldn't have met without pickleball. And it's just kind of an example of just the age differences that we have in our group. And it's nice to have people that are in their 20s, people that are in their 90s, and we play together. They're not separated. Guys, gals, we all play together. So it's just one more reason that pickleball is a pretty good thing to have around. We have another person coming, and I'll introduce her when she comes. We're here to give an update on the pickleball, on the Cobble Park Outdoor Pickleball Courts project. Say that, that's a mouthful. But first I'll give a recap for those that are not familiar with the actual project. Our group has been discussing the need for permanent courts for years now because of the increase in popularity and the benefits of playing. In October of 2021, we first approached the City Council with a request to look into the possibility of establishing permanent courts. The City Council then authorized Public Works to look into the possible locations and costs and was kind enough to let our group tag along. After various meetings and discussions, consensus was that Cobble Park would be the best possible location for the courts. Specifically, 6 courts utilizing part of the Aquatic Center parking lot. Fast forward to late last summer, and after the City Council heard the recommendation, they authorized a feasibility study to be completed. I don't think we would be here today if that feasibility study wouldn't have been authorized. Feasibility study was completed this past October, and at the November 28th council meeting, the City Council accepted the feasibility study. Understanding was that the funding for the project would be for the city to apply for a Minnesota DNR outdoor recreation grant, which is a 50-50 matching grant. Application has to be submitted by the end of March, and grant award notification will be in June or probably July. Our group offered to raise the city's match amount, which the city determined to be about $175,000. This brings us to tonight. And we've been able to accomplish this in about 2 months. Since actual cash donations do not have to be collected until the grant has actually been awarded, all that needs to be done at this time is to have financial commitment letters. This folder contains 43 financial commitment letters, but they do not total $175,000. Denny, you want to give them the total?
176,900.
Woohoo! Congratulations.
The breakdown of this amount comes to $100,000 from one anonymous donor, $43,000 from the Red Wing Area Fund, $5,000 from the Wings Foundation, and $28,900 just from the members of our pickleball group. So I think it's a pretty good breakdown of showing support in our community of just how important some people really think pickleball can be. We hope that coming up with a total match when the application is sent in will give us a leg up for the grant. So we really pushed hard to come up with this amount of money. Let me give the amounts to Kate. We would like to thank you, the mayor, the council members, for supporting this project. To Kay, who has been great at guiding us through and answering silly questions at times. To Public Works, specifically Director Sean Blaney, Deputy Director of Buildings and Grounds Pat Raymaker, for taking the lead on the project and allowing our group again to tag along and to field some questions we could help out. To Capital Investment Program Manager Ron Seymour for tackling the Minnesota DNR grant that now has to be completed and sent in. And last, but certainly not least, to all the donors who believe how valuable pickleball will be to the community. And I just want to give a shout out to the Red Wing Area Fund and to the Wings Foundation. I didn't know much about these two groups before we approached them. We are so fortunate to have groups like that in Red Wing. And I just have one more thing before we take some questions if you have any. We want to give you something. You dropped the ball.
Did you check?
Well, when you're young, you can do that. Can I pick it up? Oh, please.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
So this means we have to come play? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Very much.
You have to come play.
Excellent.
You can do it.
That way you can Danny will take you all down. Yeah. This guy beats pants off all of us all the time. He's a wall.
These are not a gift. These are a reminder. The DNR Outdoor Recreation Grant will not be awarded until June or July, so that's a ways away, and we don't want you to forget about this grant and this project. Secondly, rumor has it that being an elected official might be stressful. I'm not quite sure about that, but they say it is. So these pickleballs will serve as a reminder of warmer weather, sunshine, and doing something fun outdoors, which pickleball is all about. And oh, by the way, we want these pickleballs back. We're retired, and we're on a limited income.
You get to throw them back.
Right, Danny?
Very right.
And Danny will come after him, let me tell you.
Yes, I'm a virgin of 1932. So figure it out, it's going to be 91.
Any questions that we might answer?
One thing, that was quite a tournament they had up in the cities was this past weekend, wasn't it? The pickleball tournament?
Yeah.
And I don't know what that draw was, but it was huge.
Yeah.
Just people that aren't familiar with what's going on out there. It was...
Well, again, you know this is a really up-and-coming sport when you go to Quick Trip and it's on the outside TV screen when you're getting gas. So
I wouldn't know.
You're missing out, Mike.
Neither would I.
I learned how to play in Arizona. I think it was 2005 or 6 I started. And I was a snowbird for 17 years. People would come down to Arizona to live or to rent for the summer. And if you didn't have pickleball courts, they say, we'll go to the next place. So that's how important it is for Red Wing to have them. We welcome all people. I know we're well in the arts, but now we've got to get into pickleball too.
When I grow up, I want to be like Danny.
If I can just add to, I got to go out with my son's a tennis player. We went out because he wanted to go play pickleball at the Y, and they're just, when we talk about community pride these days and the lack of it, maybe like that group is so great. I mean, they let anybody walk in those doors and teach you how to play. I mean, so I just wanted to say thank you, and I think for anyone that has a little extra time to go and take 15 minutes, you guys were just great about welcoming people, and that's truly what community is about. So it was really encouraging, and thanks so much for doing what you're doing. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Well, if there's anything that comes up that you can think of that we can do to better our chances with this DNR grant, it's a very competitive grant. Sean probably, Jay knows more about it than I do, but it's very competitive. We hope that raising this money ahead of time and getting it on the application will certainly say good things about us and maybe give us an extra leg up. It'd be a big thing if we got the grant.
Well, and that would be my question, whether for Marshall or when Ron comes back, is how can we help, or what can we do to advocate for them at that level with the grants, with the DNR? Is there anyone we should be calling, or?
My understanding is that there is a grant, kind of like a grant coordinator, that our grant writer can contact. I think they have to send a copy of the grant completion in maybe by March 10th. They'll read it over and maybe give the city some ideas what they might want to put in there or added. I haven't had a chance to talk to Ron yet about that, but that's my understanding. So that's a way that they could maybe find out.
And Ron is brilliant at coordinating these, by the way, too, so I know if he thinks that letters of recommendation or support for the project, I'm sure that this group can come up with a number of those. And
We already have.
Yeah, I figured so we'll definitely keep you posted as we go through the process. I know Ron's already thinking a lot about this and working on strategizing on how to best position it. So.
We've sent them a couple emails with just from our perspective, from the public's perspective, of what we think pickleball will do for the community, up and above what the city's perspective is. So we hope he kind of, melds them together a little bit and kind of speaks on both sides of that. So we hope. We went through the grant just ourselves, and thank God he's doing them. But anyway, it's pretty straightforward.
The project aligns really well with what the grant's intent is too.
It does.
Getting people outdoors.
Yeah.
91-year-olds.
I
bet.
I hear a challenge.
Take you up on that offer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I introduce somebody first real quick?
Certainly.
This is totally my fault. I gave her the wrong time. I gave her 6:30, and that was my fault. This is Jasmine. She's a student at Southeast Tech in the band instrument repair program. She hails to us from Nebraska, and after graduating in May, she's going back home to be the band director for her local school district. She looks like a student. And she's going back. And anyway, we wouldn't have met her without pickleball. And she's developed some friendships, I hope, just with our group. She's been a great person to have in here. And I think it just goes to show that we've had this happen time and time again, where people have come and approached us and wanting to play. We used to play Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Well, now we've added Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they play some nights, and now they play some weekends. And more times than not, it's somebody that might not be even from Red Wing. They're just coming visiting, or they might be living outside of Red Wing someplace, and you just heard about it. So again, this is just growing in leaps and bounds. So we're fortunate to be able to have, somebody like Jasmine that's willing to play with us during the time that she can play. She's obviously a very busy person. But kind of compares, Denny's almost 91, and then we have Jasmine, we have people in their, teens and 20s and all the way up to 91 playing. So it's a good thing for a community when you can be so inclusive of the community that you have that kind of people that are willing to play together. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is 7C, which is a presentation on the updated digital Red Wing report card.
Hello and thank you, President and Council and staff. This is just a brief report on the Red Wing report card. The first report card that we had was in 2017. It was a kind of skinny paper piece, and it worked wonders as the first step in the 2040 planning process. That was, some of you might remember, we had lots of groups come together over a period of 2 years, and at the very, very beginning of that, just to see where Red Wing was at, we did a report card, and we had people figure out what measurements they wanted, and we put all those down. It was quite a process, and there were some big ahas in there. I remember at the time, and luckily this has changed a bit, but at the time, Red Wing had an income level, median household income level that was, you know, going down, and we were seeing some increases at the county and the state and the nation, but Red Wing continued sort of on this downward trend, and that was sort of a big aha, I remember, from that time period. And we had lots of good discussion, lots of people. It really helped sort of spur some action in 2040, and it was a good first step. That was in 2017, and we meant to have the next report card in about 2020, and then 2020 happened, and so it did not happen. And so I'm very happy that now we are just about to launch the second and updated version of the Red Wing report card. This time there will be a PDF so that people can still go to meetings with a sheet. We found that people still like to have paper. I like to have it, and I've talked to lots of people who still like to put it in their folder and bring it and share it with people. But in addition to that, this is really the digital format, and I will show you what it will look like on someone's cell phone as well. But there are lots of reasons to do a report card, and one is really to have everyone sort of looking at the same data so that we can all have that discussion together, and you and everyone can have those discussions as they want in their different groups. It's a way to see where we are, and then to see if we are turning the curve in the right direction, or if we are sort of having a gap and going a little bit in the wrong direction. What we like to think, and how I like to think about it, is we're never going to reach, oh, we got there, stop everything, we're in the perfect spot. No, we're always going to be in flux. Time is in flux, and so we're always going to be turning the curve in one direction or the other, and this helps us compare ourselves to each other, to ourselves. How did we do over the course of time? And so you'll see on some of these, and I'm not going to go through every measurement, there are lots. But I want you to know that these are comparing ourselves to the county and to the state, and sometimes the country. We are also comparing over time, so 2015, 2020, and today, or 2010, 2015, and today. What most of this data, not all of it, but a lot of it uses the U.S. community census. It's the census, the American Community Survey. And I don't want to get too much into the weeds on it, but you may go and see what the decennial, the 10-year census says. What we are using for this report card, because we have done a lot of work talking to data folks, and the idea is that you use the 5-year estimates, because for Red Wing, a community our size, we will not get all the data every single year. They give us the 10-year, and then they give us these 5-year estimates each year. But you're taking a chunk of the 5 years and you're comparing it to the next year and the next year. Bigger cities like Minneapolis, St. Paul, they will have all of their data on an annual basis. We are using 5-year. So when you see, and all this is listed here, but I guess I wanted the council to know that
that when you see the word 2010, 15, and 20, that means the 5 years from 2006 to 2015. It means from 2011 to 2010, I'm getting confused, but from 2015 to 16 to 20. And all of that is here for people to see that, but I just wanted the council to know, so if someone comes to you and says, well, this isn't what I saw in the decennial census, there's a reason why we are using the 5-year estimates. Is that clear? That kind of got in the weeds, but I just wanted to, okay. So what I'll do here, just briefly, and again, I know that there's a lot happening tonight, and so this is by no means meant to be a report on the data. I just wanted you to know that it's there. We are ready for 3 sections to be live, and that can be tomorrow with City Beat is what we're planning. And if you have questions on any of this, you can contact me and we can hold it. But this is, I will show you sort of what it looks like, and then this is what it looks like, let's see, on the cell phone. And so people can scroll down this way. So it's very, it's meant to be for a cell phone. It's obviously, because of the graphs, it's easier to see on a laptop or an iPad. When someone goes to the 2040 Community Plan Report Card, they will see this. You'll see our mission and core principles are there, and then off here in the upper right-hand, home, and then sections. And there will be a total of 10 sections, similar to what the 2040 plan has. So public safety, arts and culture, community connections, the environment. The 3 that we have ready now are demographics, housing, and the economy. And so what you'll do is you can scroll down, and each time you can say learn more, and it will go to that section. And what you'll see is under each section, this is demographics. There's a similar one for housing and economy. Oh, we also have lifelong learning and physical and mental health. Lifelong learning and physical and mental health will be the next 2 by the time that you come to your next meeting. And you'll see that there are multiple categories under each one, and then you click and you can see any of these different things. So let's go to, if we went to housing, one of the first things is housing cost. You'll see percent of cost burden households. There's a summary, a definition, and a source under each category. So it puts a little bit into context. If you're someone who loves graphs and you just go right into it, that's great. If you're more of a words person, you can sort of look at the summary and then compare it to the graph and sort of do it that way. In this case, you'll see that it's 2010, 15, and 20 for Red Wing, Goodhue County, and Minnesota. And you can see how we compare with ourselves and with others. As an example, I'll just read this, and I'm not going to read anymore. You know, a summary. Almost 1/3 of us in Red Wing are cost burden, which means we pay 30% or more of our income on housing costs. Fortunately, the trend is improving. Incomes will have to increase to keep up with rent and mortgage prices to continue the trend and make living in Red Wing more affordable. So it really, and you can keep scrolling down. Cost burden by income level, rent and mortgage costs, and by number of bedrooms. Each section has between 3 and 5 categories. Again, this is how it looks online. This is how a graph would look online. You can see that it works. It's just, you know, it's more scrunched. And this one says approximately 30% of us rent the places where we live, and 70% of us own them. And you can see, based on color, rent and owner-occupied from Red Wing, Goodhue County, and Minnesota. So you can see it on your phone. It's easier to see it on a laptop. Housing vacancy rate for owned and rented housing units. Actually, the report card that we just did last year, literally just April of 2022, our vacancy rates have decreased to, you can see that, 0. Look, there's nothing there. It's a big old 0 right there. So you can see where we were before. That has decreased to here. So affordable and subsidized rental vacancy rate is 0.9. Market rate is 4.0. And you can see how we compare to Minnesota and the US. At the bottom here, this black bar here, you can get information about the data, and we show, you know, hints on navigating the charts, the primary data sources, our own Red Wing reports that you can go to, information about the American Community Survey. A note about geography, I'll just say quickly here, the census takes Red Wing as a whole, so how our city of Red Wing boundary is. It does not take into account Wakuta, does not take into account Hay Creek Township, South Oaks, some of those communities that when we go into the community, of course you're going to ask someone, where do you live, where do you work? Red Wing, and people feel really connected here. But it's just important to know that the data takes it just from, you know, how the government has drawn our boundaries. So there are some folks where their incomes and things like that are not categorized as a city. And then Red Wing community organizations, and tomorrow there will be many, 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 many of those. This is under income, and sometimes at a category, there will be some language at the top. For instance, this talks about living wage in our first report card. That was really interesting to people, what a living wage is considered in the state of Minnesota and what the minimum wage is. And we give the sources for everything, and then of course, this one follows up with household income. So more than half of our households bring in, and households, not individuals, but households bring in more than $50,000 a year, but more than a quarter, more than 25% of us take home $35,000 or less per year. And you can see the pie chart there. We talk about median household income by race, by individuals, gender pay, so all of these things. One thing that will be that's really interesting is for lifelong learning. That information is being shared, so the school district information from the Minnesota Student Survey will be there, and you'll be able to go by income, by race. There are different ways that you can kind of slice data to see where the community is doing well and you know, where we can make some improvements. We've been working really strongly with Goodhue County for the physical and mental health piece. So that is very exciting, and that is the next one that is 99% done. I think I will stop here. I guess one of the things is sort of the why. Why would we do something like this? One is that we'll see how we're doing. That's pretty obvious. Another one that a lot of people have used, that we have found, they use the first report card and they use the 2040 plan when they are, this is kind of a secondary or tertiary positive thing, but they are using it when they write grants. So that people have that information right away. It helps organizations, it helps us write those grants, go after things because we know what our data is and we have looked at it already, so that's helpful. Collaboration. A lot of people who, for instance, in housing, that for people who want to know, or lifelong learning, arts and culture, people who want to get involved with that, there will be links that are directly linked to those organizations so that people can say, hey, I want to get involved with that. They seem like things are happening, or this is a problem. I want to know who to contact. Those links will be there for more communication. And I hope, lastly, that it is most importantly helpful for you as the council. So if you ever want to access some data or information, that this will be something that you can look at as you're making decisions. I think I'll stop there. We're also hoping it activates people. The first page says, if you find something here that you want to get involved with, be active yourself. So it's really hoping that people are spurred to action in whatever area they want to in Red Wing. Any questions?
So where is this going to be off of the main page?
Yes, so this is a site that sits sort of adjacent to the Red Wing homepage, so we have a link, but anyone will be able to go to redwingreportcard.com after 2 days from now. Yes. And Evan, I think it might be .org, redwingreportcard.org, since we don't,
Well, maybe get the links out to us.
Yep.
Be good.
And that'll go out in City B too, so people can access that.
Great. Yeah, the information is really valuable, and I'm glad to see that we've been tracking it and continue to track it, because it does make a difference on knowing where we stand on our 2040 plan, which is ultimately kind of a roadmap that we laid out, and if we don't know where we are, we don't know where we're going. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Other questions?
Okay, thank you.
We're now at our public comment segment, where members of the public can speak on topics that are not on the agenda. Anyone who cannot attend the meeting but would like to have their comments entered into the public record can submit an email before 3 p.m. the day of the meeting to the administration email, or phone 651-385-3612 by 3 p.m. Any emails received will not be read aloud, but will be entered into the record for this meeting and shared with elected leaders. Next, I will ask those in attendance who wish to share public comment to address the council. We appreciate you stating your name, what city you live in, and if you live in Red Wing, please provide either your ward number or your street name or your neighborhood area. You will have up to 3 minutes to share your thoughts, and please remember that personal attacks may be ruled out of order. We appreciate your time in attending the meeting tonight. First one we have signed up is Shannon and John Dahl.
All right. Hello. My name's John S. Shannon. We live on South Park here in town. And I just have more of a question. About 2 years ago, we moved in, and there's drones that fly above our house every single night. Dozens of them. They fly all up and down the east side, both sides of town, all over the place. We've called the Red Wing Airport, we've called City Hall, we've called even, my wife had talked to the police chief a while back about this as well. It was a while ago. Nobody seems to know where they come from or who's flying them. I'm just wondering, where can I go to find this out? What is all flying above me every single night?
It is,
Every night.
it's dozens of them, and they start every night just about dark, and they go till about midnight, at least 2 at a time every night. They fly. They kind of follow the bluff, so we're just trying to figure out.
And they go down by the river, there's drones flying everywhere, every single night. And nobody, like I said, we've called the airport, and I don't know who to go to. I don't know who to ask, so that's why we're here. I'm trying to find this out.
Comments and, in groups and stuff, and nobody seems to know what they are, so we were just wondering if anybody.
You guys can maybe direct us to who's doing this.
I don't know the answer to that, but I think if you give us a little bit of time, we'll do some research and then see if we can get back to you.
Yeah, now you gotta just step outside, you'll see them every night, every single night. I mean, we've taken multiple videos, pictures, I've called everywhere we can think of, but nobody seems to know a single thing about it, which just is shocking because it's not like there's one or two. It's consistent. It's not planes because they're not on a flight path. I downloaded multiple apps to see, flight trackers and stuff. We cannot find out any single piece of information about this, and I would like to know what's flying above us every night and just what's going on with it.
Can you hear them inside your house?
No, they're fairly quiet. And I know the police.
How do you
I
notice
think one drone maybe or something. I heard you had one, but you could tell the difference between the police. You know what I mean?
We don't have any at the Red Wing Police Department. Goodhue County Sheriff's Office has one at least. And I could probably do some checking with their drone operators.
I mean, it's every night, and it's dozens. It's not one or two. They're all over out there until about midnight. They start up at dusk, and here they come, right along the bluff, right along down by the river down there. And nobody seems to notice them or say a single thing about them. So I'm just kind of wondering where I can go to find this out.
What did you say your address was?
902 South Park. And I believe it's solely on this end of town.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't spend much time on the other side, but I post on Facebook groups and nobody knows anything about it. I've only ever seen them on here, on this side of town, but it's every night.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you about the west side.
We started noticing about like
2 years ago?
2 years ago, and it's been every single night.
So, if I may, you said just specifically on this end, so have you spent time on the other, you said you don't really know?
No, but I've talked to some people who live out on the other end and they don't notice anything out that way.
But nobody knows anything anywhere.
We've driven, we've been over there obviously over during the night, but not frequently, but I've never noticed anything.
I mean, we went up to the bluff to watch them one night, up in the Memorial Hill up there, and they just keep coming. And nobody knows. But no, we've never noticed anything on the other end because we're usually not out there at nighttime.
Oh, okay.
So that's.
So they may or may not be over
They
there.
may or may, yeah, we don't know
Okay.
about that.
I'm not sure, but from what I know and understand from talking from other people and just from what little I've seen over there on my end or on my own, there's nothing over there. I noticed that they kind of follow the bluff, so I was just wondering if there was something.
Yeah, they go and then they come back and then they go down over there a little bit and It's not abnormal to look up there and see 3 or 4 of them up there at one single time.
Kind of zigzagging, I mean, they
Yep.
don't follow a path, they don't stay certain amount of feet away, behind. I mean, he's out what was the last night, and there was 2 just back to back to back. I mean,
Yeah.
as a plane, you can't fly that close to each other, and you kind of have to take the flight pass, and these just kind of go wherever they want to all night long.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
Get your contact information.
Yes. Sure. John, my number, you want my phone number?
Yeah.
719-650-0402. Like I said, you might not see them tonight because it's cloudy. You might not, but any given night, just go out there, and they're there. I mean, it doesn't.
Wait long, you'll see them.
Yeah, just wait till it gets a little bit dark, and you'll see them.
And they don't fly during the day like that.
Yep. Never see them during the day. It's always beginning of night. And that's all. If you could let us know, wherever you come across or where we direct us where we need to go.
We'll do that.
We'll do that.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. A few years ago, we had a presentation on drones and how close you could be to the airport and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where that radius was. I remember that presentation.
Right.
So.
Interesting.
I do know.
Your name tags are mixed up in your.
Oh, they mixed up? I didn't even check that.
Jay, and then I saw Kyle's name there. Jay.
But I do know the drone flights that we've done for our projects, and I'm assuming it's because of the airspace, our consultants had to file flight plans for all their work. So do you know what radius that is, Sean?
I don't know the details. I know there's something to do with the airport, but I just don't know the information. I don't speak.
Because we did a bunch of it during the bridge project, River Bridge, and then the Barn Bluff, and a lot of the existing conditions of the rock formations were all drone. We had a lot of drone flights actually over the last few years with projects, but everything had a flight plan before it was put in the air.
Right, okay. Well, we'll do some.
Well, it would also maybe be nice if we could get a review on what our policies so that we can talk about it in this platform as well. Because there may be some people who are not aware, and if they do. I know that there are some photographers in town who use it, and it might be a good resource too that would provide some information. So it doesn't obviously sound that this is photography, but they might be a resource.
It's 2 years.
All right. Thank you. We'll let you do some.
Okay.
And
We'll
guess
let
I'll
you know it
bring
was
something
fine.
back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. The next person signed up for public comment is Patricia. Did you sign up, Patricia? You're next. Yes, you're the one. I'm sorry.
Well, you might have heard this already because I posted about this on online. I would like to speak about.
Sure. Could you state?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Patricia Allende de Young. I live in Ward 2, and I am happy to see everybody here. I would like to speak on the importance of public comment. It is essential that for the good of the people, the Red Wing City Council, by its rules and procedures, encourages and provides equal opportunities for public comment. And I stand to speak to oppose any suggestion that requires a person who wants to speak before the council to be physically present in chambers in order to be recognized. As we all know, we have virtual meetings and WebEx, and that makes it possible for people to speak from remotely when they're at home and attending from home. The council, I believe, should avail itself of the means of communications in order to allow anybody who wants to speak to do so. It is not fair, right, or equal to make access and means to participate for those attending the meeting virtually more cumbersome and less effective than it is for those who are able to be here. I'm referring here to the suggestion that has been made that people attending meetings virtually should give up the right or the privilege to speak publicly via virtual meetings and instead submit emails. Sending an email that is read into the record after everything has been discussed, decided, and voted on is not the same as having our voices heard when people can actually hear and consider what we say. Unlike when having to send comments via email, there is a direct, immediate connection and impact when we speak in real time. when metaphorical iron is hot, when people are plugged into the event, listening, and things are happening, and it all comes together and is part of that meeting. And as a result, what I would say, what anybody else would say, would carry the same weight, because everybody gets the opportunity to speak and be heard. Now, when I stand to speak publicly at the City Council, I'm aware that I have two audiences. I come here, I speak to the City Council who sits in its membership and will listen and vote on things. And I speak to the residents of Redwing who are here, who are listening online, who talk with their neighbors. This gives me an opportunity to connect with two audiences immediately, which makes what I say more influential, more effective, more powerful, more memorable. That does not happen with emails or other things after the fact. To some, having to attend meetings in person as a condition of being allowed to speak publicly is not fair or right. It is a rule that that treats one group of people differently than another. It denies some people the opportunity to fully participate the same as other people, and it denies all people their right to know what their residents think and their neighbors and residents and fellow people think about the issues and concerns that affect us all. Not only might the City Council benefit from hearing and considering what I say, so might public comments stir others to learn about an issue of importance that they should know about and be interested in. In effect, my comments, or somebody else's that come to speak here, might change minds and make a difference in how the council reacts, considers the things, and ultimately votes, affecting the very policies and proposals being considered and discussed. And that is the point of public comments. So I would urge the council to consider policies that incorporate things and means that are equal, fair, and allow everybody the same opportunities and weight of saying things. There's somebody that suggested to me, told me, add emails to this. There is a possibility, suggestion that emails could be read aloud by someone who would stand at the podium here and give it the same authority that anybody who is able to speak for themselves can do. There's reasons why people can't come here. A lot of people are disabled, poor, or don't have transportation, have kids at home. And those are probably the most disparate effect on people are the people who are low income and people of color and the elderly. So let us do better than that. And I ask that you consider that when you do any changes to the rules and procedures that you consider. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. No one else signed up for public comments, so I'll take anyone in attendance here that would like to speak. Yes.
Carol Overland did sign up. She is on virtually.
Okay, I'll get to the virtual ones after the members here. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm having a... Liz.
Good evening. I am Liz Miguel. I think I'm Ward 3. I'm off of Burton Street. Thank you, Becky. I'm not political. I just know who I want to vote for. I am just here to thank Chief Rohr and his amazing team for the work we have partnered with this year for Open Harbor. Your officers have been nothing less than stellar. I mean, we have had, for some reason this year, we have had more reasons to call. They have been swift. They have been professional. They show up, not one person, but sometimes 5. And that's been really, really appreciated. When they call me with somebody and I say, oh, I don't think that's a good fit for Open Harbor, they're like, okay. And they don't push it, which I really appreciate. And I just really want to let them know that it means so much to myself, to our guests, to our volunteers, and my staff when we're staying there overnight by ourselves in the middle of the night to know that the Red Wing Police Department is behind us and they understand that everything we do is rooted in safety, and they tell our guests that. They are extremely polite to our guests, even when our guests are not polite to them. I have never once seen anything close to anything that I would question as their professionalism. So I just really wanted them to know, you guys all to know that we've had a lot of reasons to call this year. It did calm down when they got pretty stern with some of our guests and said, we will show up every time they call. and we will be here quickly. And that really spread the word, and it calmed things down. We appreciate that. Chief Warner, I'm sure you guys are wonderful too. I'm very thankful we have not had to call you this year. But I just really want to please let your staff know how much we appreciate them this year.
I definitely will. Thank you. And it's always a contest between Chief Warner and myself. Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it. I will definitely pass along to my officers.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on public comment here? Alan?
Is this working now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Alan Muller, and I live at 1110 West Avenue. And I have two items I want to mention to you rather briefly. One is item 10C on the agenda, which has to do with amendments to the rules of order and procedure. And I presume you want to hear about my thoughts on that when we get to that point on the agenda?
Yes, please.
Okay, now, secondly, there's a letter here from Xcel Energy asking the city to endorse its electrification proposal. And this was mentioned, there was a line item in the agenda that I found online this afternoon. I don't see it mentioned in the printed copies that are on the table. But the concern here that I have is very simple. I don't doubt that this proposal is in the interest of Xcel Energy, but I have no reason to assume that it's optimal from the standpoint of the residents of Red Wing. There is a contested case proceeding going on this, which should yield a variety of points of view, and the public comment period for that ends on April 5th. So I think it would be unwise at this time for the city to endorse Xcel's proposal without taking a look at the other points of view that might be revealed in the testimony that will be forthcoming. So I don't know what the intent is with regard to this, but I would suggest that you not act on it at this time. Okay, I'm done.
All right, thank you, Alan. I'll call you back up on 10C. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on something that's not on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to Carol online. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, testing 1, 2. For things that are not on the agenda, I'm looking at the consent agenda and there isn't a way to weigh in. Oh, I'm sorry, Carol Overland, 1110 West, Ward 2.
All right, so if it's on the consent agenda, which item is it, and I can have it pulled?
Well, it's 9D and 9E, the assessments. I just wanted to make a comment on it. I'm not really asking to have it pulled.
Okay, all right, you can just make a comment on it then.
Okay. First, for Sturtevant, the landowners are assessed about $201,000 of the 1.4 million, so it's about 1/7 of the total cost. And I'm hoping that the city is considering what part of that cost is service for, something that the people, the landowners benefit from. And there was a case which I did send to you by email about that on St. Paul, and St. Paul has looked at other ways of handling assessments, and I urge you to do some of that, some creative thinking. Our assessment is, oh no, I didn't print it out, but 6,783, I think. And then we also had to pay $5,500 for our system right to our house. And that's over $12,000, and that's a lot. I mean, I think of the people that are listening to this, how many of you could pony up 12 grand? Now, that's a significant expense. And then secondly, Sturtevant is not done. The report's recommendation says that cleanup items, final turf establishment warranty items are not done, but they want to bring it forward because the majority of the project is completed. But the project isn't completed, and also trees were left out of that, and trees are a very big part of that, which we dealt with on West Avenue. We've lost all of our trees here over time, and they did save one of ours on Sturtevant this time, but we're still missing 2 other trees. Anyway, so I think it's premature to be assessing. And so I urge you to think about the equity of assessments and the timing of assessments. And $12,607, $800, that's a lot of money. Okay, thank you. That's it for today.
Right.
Oh, wait. I got one more thing that's not on the agenda. May I?
Yes.
Agenda item 11. I want to make it very clear because there's been statements made over time not understanding the statutes and the laws regarding personnel meetings. Personnel meetings are closed and they're confidential. That is the law. And so I want to make sure that the new members are aware of that there isn't misinformation flying around about meetings that are dealing with personnel issues. They must be closed. The discussions must remain confidential. That's part of upholding the law, and that is a part of the oath of office. But these meetings are closed and they are confidential. That's it. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. And you can put your hand down. Thank you. Is there anyone else online that would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? You are, unmute yourself. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on a topic that is not on the agenda this evening? Anyone else wanting to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, we will move on.
Mr. President, can I bring up one email comment that I think went to all the council members from a resident, Brian Jones, who had a concern or a complaint about a traffic or a ticket that he received for snow plowing. So he did send that in. He unfortunately had a conflict, so he couldn't, or he had to work, so he couldn't come to the meeting tonight. But he gave you quite an extensive background about his situation, and his thought was that the snow had been plowed so that he could park on the street. And the policy is very clear that you cannot park until after 12 o'clock. And so he did park 2 vehicles out there and did get 2 tickets for that. So Sean and Gordon are both here. We feel very strongly that we abided by the policy that's been adopted by council and that we don't have any authority to deviate from that. You know, issues like this do come before the council. If you want any additional information from us to consider a different, if you wanted to waive that ticket, please let us know. We think the ticket should stand because we were simply implementing the council policy.
Well, I just want to mention I got contacted by another resident on the very same issue, again, with kind of sort of the same issue, and I feel like we have to, as sympathetic as I can be to everyone who gets caught, they think that the streets are plowed and everything's done. If we make an exception all the time, then we have no ability to enforce it when we don't. So I want to be sensitive to everybody. It's very hard when you have snow emergencies. You think things are right. I know it is, but just given that more calls are coming in through the event, I just want to caution us.
We have the policy. But, okay, we do have the policy, so I know the policy's been around a long time. I don't know if it's something that we need to relook at and make sure that it's current to what we're currently doing. But I thought I saw quite an older date on it when it was sent to 13. So it's been 10 years, so maybe somebody could look at it, make sure it's current to what we are doing, because sometimes things change, and we don't want that to be a case in there.
So Sean and maybe Chief Rohr, what's the feasibility of trying to have a different policy? If we came up with a different policy and say, okay, once the roads are plowed to the curb, you know, it's more based on what's been done rather than a time period. Is that possible to enforce? Would that be impossible to enforce?
I'll take a stab at it to start with. It would be difficult from a manpower standpoint, when I say the staffing standpoint, because every vehicle that the PD came across that the street appeared to be plowed, they would have to consult with Public Works to chase, we'd have to chase them down to confirm that it was plowed. So my concern is we'd have to put more people on, more superintendents on to be able to, along with Gordon has to staff up for it, we'd have to also staff up to make those determinations on a case-by-case basis where the policy is blanket and it allows us to be as efficient as we can be.
I would agree with Sean on that. It would take a lot of extra time, a lot of extra staffing in order to do things that way. As police officers, we don't necessarily know whether the street's actually been plowed curb to curb, how wide it is, etc. If they have to come back and do some more plowing, it would just, I think, cause a lot of confusion and extra time. So,
Thanks for the information.
Yeah, quick follow-up. That's a great question. Is it? Do you feel there's any way to tighten up that time limit at all?
I'd be nervous to say yes, based on, you just never know what the snowstorm's gonna bring, so.
Okay, fair.
Okay,
Yes, go ahead.
if I could just add too, I mean, I've been getting these calls and reflecting on this, and thank you, Chief, for your response earlier today. I think another concern, if we sort of try to do it by plowing, would be somebody would say, well, last time I was out at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. and I didn't get ticketed. Why am I getting ticketed now if the plowing route varied or something? So, I mean, I understood in the explanation it's cleared until noon, and that's a really equitable way to enforce it across the city and make sure that those streets are cleared for all our public safety vehicles and people to be able to get back to their off-street or their on-street parking. So I think it makes it frankly streamlined. And I did glance over the policy this afternoon. It looked pretty simple and pretty clear to me. Not that things can't ever be reviewed, but there wasn't anything glaring that I thought felt outdated.
I did too, but I'm not managing it and overseeing it, so you guys are, and sometimes things change just a little bit in how you do something, just to make sure that it's correct. You know, if you look at it and say it's fine, I'm good with it, and I'm sure the rest of us are. But if there's something that needs to be tweaked with it, then we'll make those adjustments. All right. Beth, did you want to say something?
Beth Breeden, Ward 2. I've noticed just driving around, and I've also brought this to my attention before calling. I've noticed when the utilities and things were updated, a lot of the signs weren't put back, including on my street. In fact, there's one still that's been hanging there or propped on a pole for a long time sideways. It's like missing half of it. So a lot of the streets haven't been, I don't feel all the signs have been put back either. So it is a concern. It still is a concern on my street because there's some down farther and there's some way up, and it gets confusing too to our neighbors too. So the city, I know I've called before about it. There's one I know that's been sitting there on literally propped on the side of a pole for like 2 years now, and it's still that way. And it's actually opposite than the street it should be on, which should be ours. So I just want to let you know it could be the reason why I might be getting ticketed more for people.
That we will move on to Board and Commission communications. And the first item is to consider a motion to appoint Ron Schong to the Library Board of Trustees for the first term expiring December 31st, 2025.
I'll make a motion to appoint Ron Zhang to the Library Board of Trustees for a first term expiring December 31st, 2025.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Vicky, second by Ron, to appoint Ron Schong to the Library Board of Trustees for a first term expiring December 31st, 2025. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to 8B, which is the Council Liaison Commission reports. Is there anyone that would like to share anything this evening? Kevin?
Yes, on February 14th, the Arts and Culture Commission had a workshop. One of the big items was a communications piece called Telling Our Story, which was 2022 in review. It was very kind of look at what has been going on with arts and culture, the new Arts and Culture Commission, pretty new. And it was very exciting to see. And then they add a update on their Incubate plan, which is their arts and culture plan, and the public art investment program, and just talked about what are the goals for that moving forward. And then they also talked about their 2023 projects and assigned various committee breakouts. So it's strong, going into the year.
Yeah, I received a note here from Jess McGee from the library, and she wanted me to mention that they have some upcoming adult programming for March and April. I believe you can go online and see all the different programs. It starts March 16th and goes all the way through, I believe, the end of April, April 29th. They've got about 6 or 8 events there that are available for adult programming.
I'll just make an announcement that the HRC's workshop, which was scheduled for last Thursday, will need to be rescheduled because of weather.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. We will move on to the consent agenda, and I'll start out by pulling items 9K, 9L, and 9M.
Pull 9I.
Aye.
So motion to approve the consent agenda with those, I think was it 3?
I.
I, K, and L
and
omissions,
M.
and M omissions, so. Can you repeat that list?
I, K, L, and M.
I had 9I. Yep.
And I.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Second by Ron. Less 9I, 9K, 9L, and 9M.
The second by Don, I think.
Oh, did I say wrong? Sorry. It's already been a long day.
Becky?
Hey.
Fair?
Aye.
Brown? Aye. Lambert?
Aye.
Aye.
Norton?
Aye.
Cleveland?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
We will start with 9I, the river cleanup.
Yeah, obviously I wasn't here for this, but my understanding was that the council was really supportive of this, and I appreciate that, thank you. I'm hopeful that we will be able to approve this tonight. I just wanted to add that with your approval, I'd like to host a second location that would be closer to the community. Ms. Flanders, Commissioner Flanders is gonna host one where we did previously at the intersection of Welch and I think that's the Vermilion River, 19 in the Vermilion River. And I'd like to suggest a second location at Caldwell Park. And I'm on the youth committee and I will talk to them tomorrow and see if they have interest in supporting that as well. But I think that will help, with 2 locations in a park space, I think it makes it more accessible as well because Caldwell Park has a more gradual entry to the river as well and allows a lot of families to participate in this. So I'm, again, thank you guys for supporting it the last meeting and hopefully that we can support this cleanup through this effort. With that, I'll make the motion to approve support the river cleanup.
Second. Motion Becky, second by Evan, to support the river cleanup. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. On to 9K, which I pulled because I was asked by staff. It's the motion to approve the use agreement with London Construction and authorize Public Works Director to sign on behalf of the city.
So Jay and I were discussing this a little bit. Jay brought to my attention that there's some trail encroachment concerns on the contractor's part, and that came to us after this agreement was, or after this agenda item was written. So we were, between Jay and I were talking, we kind of like it. There's no hurry on this agenda item. If maybe staff could have a little more time to work with the contractor to discuss those, the bike trail and how the project impacts the bike trail.
Yeah, what the contractor was doing, they'd worked with Lynn Nardinger to get these, a meeting ago to get space for the construction trailer. So they again reached out to Lynn talking about this access road. Subsequent to that, I got a call from MnDOT, the project manager, asking about closure of the trail. And I said, well, the plans are clear that the trail is to remain open except for those times when necessary to close because of overhead beam setting or demo or things like that in the plan set. And the contractor's looking for a longer term closure, and this access road that they're looking at putting in would impact the trail. And now we can see why they're thinking longer term closure of this trail. And it is on MnDOT right away. If you think about where that trail is and where this Harbor Drive is, we cross under 61. That's officially Highway 61 right away. We just thought now would be the time to table this, let us talk with the contractor, make sure we're making the right decisions on how that trail would be closed, when it could be opened back up, things like that. We definitely want to work with the contractor. We want to be safe. We don't want people going through there with things happening and they're trying to build the Pier 1 and the bridge piers and beam setting and all the things that go on with a construction project over 2 years like this. But we want to also make sure we're making the right decisions on road closures and trail closures. So just feeling right now it would be good to pull this item, let us sit down with the contractor and MnDOT and talk this through. Make sure we're making the right decisions.
Do you think that we'd know something by the next meeting?
I would hope so.
We tabled it till the next meeting?
Yeah. Yep. Table it to the next meeting, and I think we have a pre-construction meeting coming up with the contractor here too.
Take no action.
Or we can just take no action on it and bring it back. We just not take any action on it.
That would be the best. No action. We'll bring it back when we're ready to present it again.
That'd be fine. And then 9L, I pulled because somebody wants to speak on it. And that's a motion to adopt resolution 7850 to authorize a grant submission and accepting the grant terms and conditions Minnesota DNR Recreation Grant Program, Pickleball. And the person that would like to speak.
Hello? Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Martha Harris. And unfortunately, I couldn't make it in to attend tonight. But Tim did such a terrific job in that presentation. I believe I can keep this very short. I think what's so important is that pickleball, as stated by Tim, Denny, and Jasmine, is so accessible to so many. And I encourage you to support the request for writing the DNR grant. And as it is accessible to so many, I believe too with its location in Colville Park, there will be lots of people that wouldn't be exposed to pickleball otherwise that can expand the population that we serve in our parks. And for those reasons, I hope that you will vote yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Does anyone else want to comment? So then I'll make the motion to adopt resolution number 7850 to authorize the grant submission and accepting grant terms and conditions of the Minnesota DNR Outdoor Recreation Grant Program.
Second.
So motion by Kim, second by Becky. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Fair.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Lambert.
Aye.
Hagen.
Aye.
Norton.
Aye.
Cleaver. Izzy.
Aye.
Ayes, motion carries.
Fold 9M on the request of Joe Karen.
Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor, staff. My name is Joe Kernan. I'm here with my wife, Mary Kernan. We're on item 9M in opposition to the CUP application to have a vacation home retreat in the property immediately to our next door. We're right to the west of that property. I'll be brief, but by way of background, our family has lived in that house, 519 West 7th, next to 511 West 7th, that's the applicant, for over 100 years. First, my grandparents lived there till the mid-50s, and my parents, and my brother and I moved there in the 57. My parents lived there until they passed, and my wife Mary and I have been there for the last 27 years. So we're familiar with the neighborhood and what it's like. We have one principal objection, and that is, my understanding is that the council, as well as the planning commission, is supposed to consider some 6 factors. The first 2 of the factors ask the decision makers to consider whether the property will be detrimental to the public comfort or general welfare, and whether the conduct will be detrimental to the use of the property in the vicinity, like the next door neighbors. The commission apparently made its finding, at least large part, on the basis that it didn't think the change in the property that the applicant seeks says it will function in a manner similar to the former full-time residential use. Just that assumption, conclusion, defies common sense. Of course it's going to be different in function than when you have a family or a single family in that, when you have a constant stream, if it's successful, a constant stream of guests coming and going in the house next to ours in a very otherwise quiet street with mostly family residences. The people in that area like that area. It is. In fact, the people that formerly lived in that house are now living across the street. And other people that formerly lived in that house live directly to the south. So what I'm saying, I just asked the commission, or rather the council, to consider the change that is going to be taking place. There's stories, general knowledge in the newspapers about the problems cities throughout the state are having with just such kinds of properties. Many of them have prohibited this kind of temporary use, transient use, and others have put sharp restrictions. There's not much of a condition at all in this one. So I just ask you to consider that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions on that?
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead, Becky.
Go ahead.
I do have a question. So we talked at a workshop recently about a moratorium on these, and now we're approving a conditional use. And to the residents, sort of point is, we don't have conditions on here. We talked about requiring these semi-transient
rentals to be required to go through VRBO or Airbnb, something that was also gonna verify or validate their safety and other concerns, and that, I don't believe that's a condition on here. And I'm also, there isn't a condition that may also address some of their concerns, like noise level, or number of cars, or occupant, something else that would be their concern. And so I'm wondering if it's more appropriate for us to have some language that would ensure that the residents, that it does meet those 6 sort of criteria of those residents.
Because I remember when we did the one for the golf course up there, we put a limit on how many cars could be there.
Yeah.
Because of the limited parking there.
I mean, I'm thinking about noise level or activity level, or, I know that there have been some concerns about campfires in some residential areas, or, outdoor lighting. I mean, perhaps those things may become a factor as we allow more of these things, and since we're in this sort of middle area, gray area right now, I can understand why the residents would want some maybe conditions put around this to ensure that it's going to fit with the needs of the residential neighborhood. I'm supportive of the conditional use. I just also want to ensure that it works for the residents that live there as well.
I guess my question was procedurally, when we get a public comment outside of the commission hearing, is that problematic, or how does that usually work? Because they didn't receive that information at the planning commission, correct?
I think Kyle will have to speak on that.
I can address maybe the first part of it. I will look over to the attorney too to maybe jump in on kind of the findings and how the planning commission does their work. So the planning commission did hold a public hearing on this request. It is a conditional use permit which requires notice to all neighbors within 500 feet of the proposed use. The planning commission received one email of support that you have in your packet tonight. Otherwise, there were no other individuals that spoke at the hearing other than the applicant. So I think you're correct in stating that the planning commission did not receive any public comments opposed to the use moving forward. So I think that is a legitimate question about, the findings that the planning commission put together then. Otherwise, you do have findings that the planning commission reviewed and included in the resolution. That's also included in your packet tonight. They were referenced tonight by the next door neighbor. If the council were going to go in a different direction, you would need to reconsider those findings. And you do raise a good point that the planning commission obviously didn't have that input in making its decision on making its recommendation to the council. And just to also kind of jump on maybe just quickly before we, if you have any questions for the attorney, to comment on Commissioner or Councilmember Norton's comment, the planning commission is looking at updating the vacation rental home ordinance. And this is definitely a use that would fall under the umbrella of the types of uses that will be studied and included as part of that ordinance. I think our goal is to ultimately simplify the way those uses are presented in our code, make it easier to understand, and then have some consistency between the different types of uses that are currently defined now, which is like 5 or 6 different ones. But then as part of that, we're also looking at what those standards are that should go with these uses. And that's something that is somewhat lacking in our code right now in terms of, specific standards for these uses that apply, across the city. So those are all things we're studying now. However, this one did come in as an application that met the definition for the use that's considered tonight. So it is being processed that way then.
Question then, if this is a conditional use permit that, let's say that we were to approve it and then the planning commission updates it, then does this get grandfathered in without restriction, or does the new ordinance affect this and update this?
You're getting into more legal questions. I'll try not to wade too deeply into those waters, but if this gets approved, let's say the code changes where this type of use isn't allowed or it's not allowed in the site, it still has rights because it's an existing legal non-conforming use then.
Okay.
So you could not expand upon it or basically change the use in a substantial manner if it's approved and it's not allowed under the new code. I think ideally this is the type of use that probably would be regulated under that new ordinance and probably would meet some of those, or if not all the requirements. So that's yet to be determined exactly, where it wouldn't meet the requirement. So those are all things we'll be talking about, and I think that's one thing that is on our mind as we look at that ordinance. Is we know there are uses already existing in the community, and how those rules apply to those particular uses will be something that gets discussed.
Two items. One is kind of traditionally when comments have been brought up at the council level on a conditional use permit, the general idea has been to refer it back to the planning commission. I do think that would necessarily be appropriate. There was nothing critical of it, and I think that's worth being under consideration. Second, I just want to mention, wait, before I do that, I would like to say I feel like this use could, I will turn to Kyle to make sure, but I would assume that we have a little time on this to go back to the planning commission and ask them to reconsider.
Yeah, I don't have the exact dates, but I'm fairly confident we have enough time where if we need to extend the 60-day, we go to 120 days to have this reviewed. So that should not be an issue for this particular application.
Second, I just want to mention along this stretch of 7th Street, I don't believe there's any off-street parking on that side of the street at all. It's a very tight street in terms of parking. These are small lots, except for the corner lots are larger, but these are small lots, and I know the Kernan's lot very well. They're right down the street from me, and it's a tight lot, and a lot of cars backed up could be an issue. So I do think it is worth some reconsideration of some issues.
So Kyle talked about the non-conforming use piece. He described that accurately. And I don't know what if the new code provision, what exactly it's going to say, but we can certainly provide more advice when we get to that point in terms of what's non-conforming and so forth. In regards to the issue of presenting new information at the council level, and again, I'm not sure if this language is still in the public hearing notice, but we had talked about this previously with the council, and the idea was that people could still come to the council and make comments about whether they agreed or disagreed or had input on the planning commission's recommendation, but it wasn't the place to present new evidence per se. I'm not sure that was new evidence. It really did seem to be more in the scope of sort of commenting on what the planning commission said, but it certainly is within the council's prerogative if they think there are some issues that weren't considered to send it back to the planning commission for reconsideration.
Well, I'll make a motion for 9M to just return it back to the planning commission. Is that an appropriate motion for that then?
I'll second that.
Review and consideration of additional comments.
Motion by Janie, second by Becky to send this back to the planning commission for, what was it you said?
I said review and consideration of additional comments.
Any other discussion? All in favor of that? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to item 10 on our agenda, motions and general business. First one, 10A, is a presentation by Leah Hall, Director of Community Development, to Three Rivers Community Action on a potential future land donation at a city-owned site on Technology Drive.
And while Leah's getting set up here, maybe I'll just do a quick introduction on this one. You do have a memo from staff that kind of summarizes some of the history of this particular request and where we're at. I do want to point out that early in 2022, the City Council did provide direction to staff or provide direction to Three Rivers Community Action and the Red Wing HRA to pursue an affordable housing tax credit project in the community. And as part of that discussion, the council did adopt a resolution that kind of solidified and defined what that partnership is going to look like. Since that time, community development staff has been working with both organizations to identify some potential sites, kind of vet through whether or not those would be appropriate for a project. And later in the year, you were presented with their ultimate recommendation for a project site, which is the property that Leo will be talking about in just a minute here on Technology Drive. So there's some additional information there about that process, a quick summary of the project. But then staff also did include some materials that you've seen previously, and some of this has been updated now to reflect some, and to demonstrate some of the need for affordable housing in the community. And I think as you look at some of the statistics you see in this report, and as you saw from Michelle's presentation earlier about the Red Wing report card, there is a dire need for affordable housing in the community, and just housing in general. And the one that struck me the most was the current vacancy rate, which I had to double check with Michelle to make sure this was right, but it showed 0% for rental properties market rate and about 0.9% for affordable units in the community. And, we hear all the time from our business community, as we've started to do business recruitment and business retention visits throughout the city, that finding and hiring people is a major issue, but a major part of that is the folks that people want to hire just aren't able to find housing in the community. So this affects not just those that again, are looking for housing in the community, but it affects our employers, our businesses, our commercial uses, and so forth, all the way down. And, Leah and others can kind of expand upon that a little bit, but just want to make sure you at least referenced and saw those statistics in the report. Happy to answer questions about where things are at. And with that, I will turn it over to Leah to go through her discussion tonight.
Great, thank you so much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you tonight about this housing project. So I'm going to just get started here. First, just a brief overview. I know a lot of you are familiar with Three Rivers Community Action. We do a lot of things in the community, everything from Hiawatha Land Transit to Head Start. We help elders stay in their homes. We help folks get rehoused who are experiencing homelessness, prevent eviction, and other things. But one thing that makes us very unique as a community action agency is we're also a housing developer. So you can see up on the screen here, we've had over 1,000 units funded. So you can see the breakdown here, preserved affordable housing in communities we serve, built new housing, and we have 156 units under construction right now, including 32 units right next door here in Lake City. Our primary service territory is right here in southeast Minnesota, South Central. We've been serving this region for over 50 years in this work. So how we get affordable housing funded is through Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, and the primary funding vehicle we access is called low-income housing tax credits. These tax credits or private equity are extremely competitive, and it's not debt. So that's really important when we talk about controlling rents and making sure that these are affordable over the long term. Minnesota Housing gives us really some fairly prescriptive parameters for what these projects need to look like. So we're in compliance with what the city wants to see, what the state wants to see across towns and cities and communities around the state. All of the new construction projects right now, to be competitive, do include a supportive housing element. I'll talk a little about that as we move along. But Three Rivers, we focus on community-based development. So as Kyle mentioned, we've been talking about this project quite a bit, talking with you and others in the community to make sure that we're crafting this in a way that makes sense. So you can see here right off the bat, my vacancy rate's old. So it's unfortunately gotten worse, under 1%. And really, we say about 5%, professionals in this environment would say about 5% is a good vacancy rate that allows for folks to turn over, allows people to come into the market and find rentals, especially as they are moving out of their families' homes, for example, and going out on their own, et cetera. So a few other brief things here. You can see this on the report card that Michelle talked about earlier, is that a lot of renters here in the region are overburdened. So they're paying more than 30% of their income in rent. And we're also seeing, you had a lot of efforts to study what the needs were for housing, and one recommendation was to build at least 108 new affordable housing units. One other thing that is happening in this market right now, right here in Red Wing, is that finding high-quality housing, high-quality rental housing for large families is nearly impossible. So folks who are looking for 3 and 4 bedrooms, a lot of the options they have are very limited or not quality units. Last slide about the needs. I won't belabor this too much. I know you hear a lot about this, but I want to just flash up on the screen some other things that we know are happening. Goodhue County right now is looking for housing for a lot of folks that they serve. There are people that are experiencing mental health issues, that are couch hopping, that are experiencing literal homelessness. So that's out in cars, emergency shelters, hotel rooms, etc. We also have folks that are waiting on a list called the Coordinated Entry List. Three Rivers, as a rehousing provider, we pull local homeless folks off of that list and help them get rehoused with other partners here in the community like Hope Coalition. And right now there are 35 households right here waiting for an opportunity to be housed. And finally, last but not least, I'm sure you were not surprised to hear that the #2 health issue in this area is housing/homelessness. So as I mentioned, we've been talking about this project quite a bit. Here's just a brief timeline. I won't highlight all of this, but we started back in January, just coming to the City Council, talking about what Three Rivers does, what we can offer as affordable housing possibilities. We explored some sites, as Kyle kind of walked you through, and we moved on to present back in May the analysis that we came up with, showing that a project was feasible and talking about this preferred site on Technology Drive. We've had a lot of community conversations in the summer, and you just saw me in December where I gave you an update on the concept and talked a bit about what we're hoping to do with you in partnership with the land donation and TIF to make the project possible. So today I'm just going to review everything with you, answer any questions you may have in preparation for a formal ask of your support on March 13th. So a brief reminder, we're talking about up to 48 units of affordable housing. I'm using the word up to because when we go to price this, and as far as a construction estimate, if we have to bring it down a little bit, we will have to reduce it. But right now we think 48 units is what is possible but not to exceed. And based on what we know from Lake City, we're talking about 23,000 square foot of a footprint. This project would have underground parking, surface parking, a playground, green space, picnic areas, and so on, because we are also catering to large families. This will be a high-quality, attractive building. The design standards that we have to comply with for Minnesota Housing, and we're very glad to do that, are very high-quality standards. They exceed what you see in most market-rate developments. We have to comply with low VOC. We have to comply with green communities criteria. They have to be durable, long-lasting materials, both in the exterior and interior, that have to pass standards. So as a reminder, here is the location. It's right by Walmart, right near Menards, down the street from the hospital. We love this spot for a variety of reasons, but it's a great spot to be surrounded by some housing you can see around to the north and now happening to the south. But we also have some employment opportunities, shopping opportunities, and the transit bus goes right by this location. So we thought for a variety of reasons this makes sense. And if you're wondering, and folks in the community here who are wondering what's around this, to the north is a daycare, and then we have a dental clinic and a vet, and we've reached out to all of those businesses to ensure that this would not be an issue if we're able to move forward. So here's just a really preliminary sketch of a site plan. I just want to show you how this would fit. We plopped the word gazebo there, but really we're expecting that to be a playground, a picnic area, and potential gardening areas and some other things that we had talked about. You can see ample parking space. We really like how this will be situated on the hillside, being able to see the building as you come up, sitting on top. And we've got some concept images that we've been playing with just based on what we're seeing with surrounding buildings in that area. And we thought something like this might be a really great fit for that site. Here's some other images to show you what this looks like. And here's a real life example of this. This is a little bit more of an urban setting, but I wanted to show you that what these actually look like on the ground with folks living in them. So some more about the project. As I mentioned, this is large family housing that's difficult to find. The project will also include an element of supportive housing. I'll talk about that a little bit in depth here, just a few more slides. But to give you an idea of who could live here, I put out the income limits here. This is 60% of the area median income. So although our funding source is called low-income housing tax credits, I think I've said this multiple times, my sort of tagline is that that's tough for a lot of us to say, because when you look at these income limits, these are a lot of people that I know, colleagues, friends, family members that make these incomes. So I like to use the word more modest income. And these are income limits, so there may be folks that are under these incomes that can also qualify to live here. So rents will be affordable. We stagger rents, so they're affordable at different income levels. Although the max income is 60%, we try to control the rents down, and they're tiered. So we have rents that are available for folks that are earning up to 30% AMI, 50% AMI, and so on. So I gave you kind of an example of a rent structure here just to show you what this really can look like. And on the other side of the screen, you'll see kind of comparing it to what Section 8 can pay for right now, just to give you an idea of really where we're landing. So I won't read all these numbers to you, but you can see how the rent levels are scattered through all the different types of rental units. The one-bedroom units will hopefully have Section 8 tied to them. I'll talk about that again in a second. And we also have the option to work with Kurt and his team to see if it's possible to add Section 8 to the family units to make those even more affordable to the families that we're aiming to serve. The project will include on-site professional property management. So Lloyd Management is a property management firm that currently manages all 574 of the units that Three Rivers has on the ground right now in southeast and south central Minnesota. And in this project, we'll also have a Three Rivers advocate that will be based on site. They're a full-time advocate serving folks in the supportive housing and maybe other tenants that want some extra assistance. We've been talking a lot, as I mentioned, with the community, different service providers in the area, the county, and so on. And I just wanted to add some bullet points of some things that we're planning to include because of those meetings. Community rooms, training rooms, and we'd like to add a second service office so we could potentially have a float. So somebody from the county could come and work out of there, perhaps they have a client there, or another provider could be office with us. And of course, there's a lot more as we move forward, but just the very beginning and a lot more conversations to be had. So permanent supportive housing, what is this? So the proposal is that this project would include these units that would both help meet what we know now as a local need for supportive housing. So you heard the numbers, you saw the data. Right now we have local people who are unhoused or precariously housed or unstably housed that are really looking for an option to live right here in the community with the supports that they need and want. So we would be including 12 one-bedroom units, again with support, so these would target folks who have disabilities, specifically mental health is our target population for this, based again on local need. We'd have 7 units for persons that are experiencing homelessness. And as I mentioned, we'd be working with the HRA to secure Section 8 vouchers, so folks would only pay 30% of their income. The supports that we provide there would be wraparound services. We'd be working with Goodhue County, HHS, to make sure that we've got our service planning aligned with the clients that they want to be housed there as well. And we really, our service philosophy really is meeting folks where they're at. So I've had a lot of questions about, where do people come from and how do you help them move on? So we could have clients or customers, tenants that come from a variety of situations. It could be somebody that needs the support they need just to get out of bed and take their medication and make sure their apartment is clean and meet their health needs. We could have somebody that hit a glitch, something happened to them, they became homeless, and what they need is workforce training and to get back out there and move on. So we really have a different level of folks who may be staying with us long term because they're facing some significant barriers to housing, and this really is the main way that they can stay housed independently in the community over the long term. Or we could have somebody come in with us, get stabilized, live with us for a couple of years, and move on. So we're seeing this split across the different units that we currently operate in southeast Minnesota. All of these units are integrated in the property with families, families with kids. These units could also include vulnerable adults. So everybody in this project has to be safe. So we have a lot of questions about background. People cannot have backgrounds that would put them at risk of hurting their neighbors or destroying the property to a point where it puts all of us at risk, our tenants and our building and so on. So I'll just leave it at that right there. So who will this project serve? This is one of my favorite slides, not only because I feel like it really puts it into perspective about who we're seeing in the community and who these real people can be that will be living there, but it also reminds me, I think, of who we serve. So you can see, I won't read all of these to you, but you can see just a really a wide variety of different types of households, different ages, different makeups, different backgrounds could all qualify to live here. Everything from higher earning, larger families to very modest income folks and smaller families. So project sources. When we apply to Minnesota Housing, based on what we've done in the past, we expect the sources to really include this list. So low-income housing tax credits will be a primary funding source. We will also carry a first mortgage. We do that with all of our properties. That's carried, or most of our properties, there's some older ones that don't have that, but all of our new properties have a first mortgage on them that's supported by rental income and tax increment financing if we're able to do that. Deferred loans for Minnesota Housing. We're able to qualify for a sales tax rebate because this is an affordable housing project that goes to Three Rivers and then into the project. Energy rebates, and then of course if there are any other opportunities to secure funds from local housing trust funds or other local dollars, that also helps tremendously. So the total development cost, I can't tell you that exact number tonight because in order for me to get there, we have to start spending money on some design work and other things. And so putting our application into Minnesota Housing can cost up to $50,000. So I've been presenting to you and talking about this project in order to get support before we begin to drill down into those details. But I did want to provide you a comparable. You can see we have an Austin project that was just funded this last round. Thankfully, that the city there was really supportive of that project, donated land and a lot of other things to make the project possible and competitive. That's 40 units, underground parking, and that is a $16.4 million project. And just put a little note there, just if you're curious what the tax credits ended up being, they're just over 12.6. So local contributions, I've been talking about this quite a bit. This really is the key. This is the ticket. We found with all of our other projects that have gone in and been awarded, including Lake City and others, that the city being able to donate land and tax increment financing makes us competitive. So it's all based on scoring, and we can come in and show that we have the community support and some financial support. We're really able to pull these off. And so 80 to 90% of the project cost actually will come from outside. So that could be low-income housing tax credits, deferred loans, et cetera, from Minnesota Housing. Three Rivers is responsible for all the risk. So you would be committing to providing us land and TIF contingent on our successful application. And from there, we're responsible for making the project happen all the way through. So in March, we do plan to come back. We would like to ask for the city to donate the Site and Technology Drive and provide us a preliminary commitment to provide TIF. And so these really are good faith commitments, again, really helping me pull the trigger on starting to spend money to put this application together, moving forward to July. And again, risk, it is an expensive process. So we plan to return also for successful in March. We plan to return in May and June for a more formal TIF resolution that will involve the TIF calculation that I'm sure you've all done in the past with city staff. So you saw the site. So just a quick kind of land review spreadsheet here, and I'm almost done. Wanted to show you just the estimated value of this project especially, or sorry, this parcel. These are two parcels combined. Just over $238,000. This is a county assessed value that we pulled off of the county website. And just over 3.9 acres. So next steps, as I mentioned, hopefully we'll be coming back in March for your support for this project and also the local contributions that we talked about. If we're successful, it's full steam ahead. It seems like a long timeline, but it's very tight. March to July, we'll be working diligently on the application, coming back to you again with a formal TIF resolution in May or June. And of course, July is go time where we will be submitting the application. And with our fingers crossed, hopefully, we find out we're successful in December for Minnesota Housing. After that, we'd be closing the project that following fall and under construction and then leasing up in the fall of 2025.
Any questions?
So Leah, who would pay for the maintenance of like the park and the gazebo? Is that all Three Rivers that pays for that?
Correct. Yep.
And then also, you know, the two parcels that you picked, you know, to build this on or whatever, is there a reason like the ones across the street, does the city own those across the street as well? I'm just thinking from a business standpoint, if we were looking to sell land, business would want to be on the main thoroughfare.
Yeah, we looked at a few different sites in the MedTech area. One was across the street on private property that was owned by Menards. And then the other properties weren't suggested because they are in an area on the south side of the road that is, I think, something that, at least from the staff perspective, we would recommend keeping as more industrial in nature. The other reason this site was identified or looked at more closely was because, as I think Leah mentioned, there is some transition uses there. Earlier this year, the Planning Commission and the Council did support a plan development, at least a preliminary PUD, to allow for a housing project on 2 of the lots off this cul-de-sac as well on the north side, or just north of this project. So based on that and the current uses that are out there, we felt that it was probably more appropriate to consider housing on this site now with those changes than leaving it as an industrial user or industrial site. There are other properties in the MedTech Park that the city still owns that, again, staff believes would be better suited for industrial development.
Yeah. Go ahead. If you could, Kyle, do you know how long the city has owned the lot?
For as long as the MedTech Park was subdivided, which goes back to the early 2000s, I believe. So it's been a little over 20 years.
Yeah, that's my recollection as well. Thank you.
Other questions?
I just have a question. What, I'm not sure who can answer it, but as far as affordable housing goes, what would be the desired amount to have in our community?
Yeah, maybe is Michelle still here? I know we do have the housing report card, and that does break down housing by type, and then the Goodhue County Housing Study as well identified demand or a need for affordable housing versus market rate housing. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, that's why I'm looking to Michelle to see if she maybe has some of those handy.
Can you repeat the question,
The question is, in a perfect world, and we had access to affordable housing, this project looks at 40 units. How many units would be needed in a community like ours for affordable housing? Is 40 going to max it, or do we need 200?
Yeah, nope. So we have our housing numbers here that were based on the 2020 comprehensive needs analysis for Goodhue County, most of which, and then it was broken down by Red Wing. So we did that work. How much housing do we need? Let me look at, so for subsidized units, and it's broken down by general occupancy and senior living, there's so many numbers here. It says here that there are 108, and that's what Leah said too, and we've got that on our report card. 108 deeply affordable rental units are needed in this community, not for people coming in, but for literally people who are here right now. 108 deeply affordable rental units. That includes 20 plus rapid rehousing and 15 or more supportive housing units. This has 12, so we would need at least 15 for people who are here. In addition, there are more for senior living and 210 subsidized units for seniors. But if we were talking deeply affordable rental units, which this is, that's 108. Not for 108 people, but actual units.
You don't think there'd be any issue with occupying these units?
No. And the other piece of data that we look at is the vacancy rate. So because the vacancy rate is so low that we expect this to lease up quickly. And to put this into perspective, Lake City, we have 29 people on the wait list and we haven't even advertised it yet. So there's 32 units in that one.
Can you please help me understand TIF again too? So do we know, would that be part of the analysis later as far as how long it goes and when we would see, are you a nonprofit or how does that work as far as when we would see it come on the property tax rolls?
Yeah, so
a little bit about that.
Yeah, so although Three Rivers is a nonprofit, what ends up owning these is a for-profit entity because we apply to ask for TIF. So TIF, you have to be able to pay property taxes to receive TIF. And so what we would do, and maybe I'll let city staff talk about this, but the usual process is that we move forward with our design. We get a rough estimate for what this thing is going to cost. We figure out operating numbers, and we work with city staff to get a TIF run done that will tell us. And at that time, we ask, and so most of the time it is the maximum. It is 26 years if we're able to get that with the city. So we like to start there with a request of 26-year TIF, but all.
Yeah, are you looking more for the semantics of TIF and how it would be used in this case? Because I know we've had some conversations with the council last year about, some TIF projects.
I think that answers my question. Is that negotiable as far as how many years, or is that it is negotiable.
It is, yes, it is, and it's, it's gonna be laid out and based on what the, the developer, Three Rivers in this case, is asking for. I think in this case, what's different from a private project where we're doing redevelopment is that, they're shooting for certain affordability targets, and that's gonna be what's driving, I think, the request for, the TIF assistance. So there's a lot more detail that will come, and I think what Leah is asking for at this point, and we'll bring back to you on March 13th as a request, just for the council to commit to actually looking at this and working with them on developing a TIF plan without having those details. So I think it's fair to say that, when we've talked, Leah has acknowledged that they're probably looking for that maximum to start with, to see how that plays out.
Other questions?
I just have one.
What?
I'm curious about the last time the city invested in something like this.
So we've owned Eagle Ridge for 17 years. That was a tax credit project. And I believe that was the first and last one like this that was built.
Thank you.
So explain this to me a little bit. Now you got a for-profit in there. They've got the money in here, correct?
Yes, so correct. So the investor partner, the syndicator, comes in and invests in the project, and we create a for-profit entity, correct?
Okay. So you gotta have that to get the TIF money.
Yep, and for tax credits, the way that these operate, correct? Yep.
So any developer could come to town and do this themselves? A private developer could come in and do this?
They could compete for tax credits, yes. So Three Rivers is a nonprofit developer, we're a mission-based developer, but we compete in the same arena as for-profit developers that are going for tax credits. But it's all the same type of housing, affordable housing like this.
Okay. I'm just thinking, why wouldn't a developer want to come in and do this too? I mean, because the demand is here. I mean, we're talking for 108 units, you're gonna pound in 42 to 48. Right. And you want your property given to you. So if a developer came to town, he'd ask for the same thing, correct?
If they want to do a tax credit project, the one caveat I'd like to add here is that most private developers aren't tax credit developers. There are some, but for the most part, market rate is much simpler. You're not dealing with all the rules and regulations. You aren't dealing with constraints for cash flow. So you're able to build, and especially in a place like Red Wing where you know you can achieve higher rents, it makes sense to be a market rate developer, which is where we come in. That's the specialty that we provide. We'll come in and provide affordable housing in places where you might not get it as easily without a mission-based developer coming in.
So I look at, like Keller Bartman, the way he's throwing up these buildings, and he's got more to come. There's going to be more. I think he's looking across from there, isn't he, in that area?
Yep.
To put some more up there, so.
Yes, and so.
I just don't want to cause a conflict with that builder. Says, hey, you're giving me $250,000 of the property, no charge, and this guy across the road is building one, and he's got to buy the property. And I just want to keep things kind of even Steven here.
Yep, absolutely. And so what I would say to that is that our rents are much lower. They're contained much lower, and they will be for 50 years. They aren't market rate rent, and so although a portion of theirs, because they have TIF, are at 60% of their median income. That's our maximum, and most of our units are much lower than that. A small fraction are at 60% AMI. Thank you.
Yeah, kind of one of the reasons I wanted to mention the fact that the property's been sitting for 20 years is the city owns it and it hasn't generated a single dollar of property tax in a long time. The reason I mention that is, to me, I don't see any indication that it will at any point, anytime soon. And with respect to Keller Bartman, their first project received TIF. I don't believe these new projects are looking for TIF financing at all. They're a different beast altogether. They're not looking for tax increment financing. They are approaching it the way they're approaching it purely because the market is there for them to develop and make money. And so they're going to make money, and they know their business model. You exist in a different business space. That's fine. I want to recommend it. So, when I look at the TIF again, along with both the land donation, I say to myself, what is the value of property tax of that property right now? It's zero. It's been zero for 20 years. It's going to be zero for a long time to come. what do we have? We have a huge need, and we need that need filled, and we have an opportunity to do it. How do we get there? You're the only people who've come to town in this space, as far as I can tell. I haven't heard anyone come to this space like you. And I wouldn't expect anyone else to really come around. And so, you know, maybe they're out there, and if they are, I think, you know, more is the merrier from my point of view. But, you know, just from where I stand right now, both these, the land donation and a TIF, are a small price to pay to try to move this issue forward. This is a critical issue for our community. We need this housing. We know that we need this housing. All the data only reinforces how much more we need housing. It's not getting better to some degree. Even though we build housing, it fills up as quickly as we build it. So, you know, from where I stand, these are easy asks.
I had a quick, you want to go first, Becky? Go ahead. Okay.
Well, I just wanted to echo too, and thank you, Leah, for the presentation, that I agree that it's a huge need for our community, and I think the report kind of jotted down some of the notes that Michelle said the first time when she presented. And, you know, I think the biggest reason why the project has my support is it's safe and affordable housing for all. And we need lots of different, we've heard this from all the different developers that have come to town recently about all the different levels of needs that we have, and the report card specifically speaks to that. And so I really thank you for filling this, not even filling this, but starting to chip away at this particular need. And, you know, I welcome any other developers. We've had, you know, we've talked consistently about Goodhue County Associated Bank building and the Block 27 with other private developers coming forward with things, and I think we consider those each as they come to us for those needs. And this is definitely a need that our community, I've heard in these chambers regularly, that we need more affordable housing. And I looked at some of those numbers as a single person at $40,000. That's a school teacher at that level. And so I think that that's a really important niche that we need to fill. And this project has support.
Thank you.
I think my question, Leah, I know we got to talk at one time earlier when I came on the council, but I know, you know, when we looked at some of the numbers as far as maybe your development looking a little higher than some coming in as far as unit level, you talked about the high standards that some, you know, the government or whoever, you know, puts on these, which makes sense. But so is that mainly because it is Section 8 housing, or where does that high standard, I'm not wording that, but you know what I mean? Like, where is that kind of above and beyond coming from? And I know, you know, I love, if I can add to, I love that idea of like you have the advocates there and you're doing more than just providing housing, really. You're kind of doing the whole well-being of the guests that are living there and the residents, which I think is something that probably private developers would not have, which I love. And, you know, these residents probably would really benefit, and that would be a community benefit. But can you speak a little bit on that? High standard.
Sure. So Minnesota Housing, they have design standards set. If anyone's interested in looking them up, they have them actually posted on their website. It's a giant manual of design standards for all their multifamily projects. On top of those design standards, they incorporate green communities criteria. So a lot of energy conservation, smart building, things like this that, you know, help in operations too, but then are also make sense for the state's priorities in that area. So Minnesota Housing really sets that. But on top of this, I'd like to add that the investor partner who's bringing in the multi-millions of dollars, they have standards as well. So most of the time they're leaning and deferring to Minnesota Housing standards. But I would say if Minnesota Housing standards weren't that high of standards, that syndicator would be requiring this because they want their investment to be high quality over the long term. So,
thank you.
Any other questions? We do have one person that would like to speak on this, so if you could just, Patty Schwartz.
Hi, council members, Mayor Wilson, city staff. My name is Maddie Schwartz. I am a housing resource specialist with Goodhue County Health and Human Services. And this evening I would like to share that Health and Human Services supports the creation of additional units of housing that, due to a lack of units available to residents of all incomes and abilities. And specifically, I would like to take a moment to highlight the need for housing units specific need for housing units that we see among customers of Health and Human Services. So Health and Human Services works with folks that have disabilities, may struggle with mental illness, be on a fixed income, have a variety of barriers to housing, challenges with housing simply due to the high cost of housing, a number of things. And we see a large need for supportive housing among specifically those that need supportive housing in our community. So this month, 43 of our customers working with our adult mental health services team alone could move into permanent supportive housing if this was available in our community. This is just one department of Health and Human Services, and so again, I appreciate Leah sharing this in her presentation as well. This is a huge need for folks that are served by our adult mental health unit at Goodhue County Health and Human Services. So as an agency, our staff work with our customers to obtain and maintain housing, and because we see that the role that housing plays in maintaining health, well-being, and stability in other areas of life in general. And we are extremely grateful for our housing partners, some of which are here tonight, that support our customers as well. But in the end, we are still limited to in our ability to meet the housing needs of our customers because there is a lack of affordable and supportive housing in the community. So if there's ever any information that we can share on our services specifically or the needs of the customers that we serve at Health and Human Services, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz.
Thank you, Council and Mr. Mayor. Liz McGill, Ward 3, now I know where I'm at. As many as you know, I run Hope and Harbor Homeless Shelter. I have for the last 4 years, and next year will be my last year as the director of it. I will be bringing in a co-director. Just want to give a brief summary on the last 4 years. We have served now approximately 149 unduplicated guests for homelessness in the 4 seasons that we've been open. That's approximately 2,000 nights of care, a night of care being how many nights of care, how many people are there per night. Since Friday night, we have 6 new guests. We close Saturday morning. That is not the direction I usually want the shelter to go at all, not usually the direction it goes, because we're usually able to find housing. You might have seen me step out a moment ago. That was because we got our second, last night was one, today is another, 18-year-old, senior in high school, staying at our shelter. My son graduates, and I pray these 2 individuals are on that stage in a few weeks with him. But they are homeless. They are seniors in high school, and they are homeless in our community. My ask is very simple. Leah did a phenomenal presentation. She's the expert on all the numbers and the financing. My ask is very, very simple. 1, I'm going to invite you all to the shelter Saturday morning when we close. Not because I want help moving all our stuff into storage. There's a lot. We've got that down to a science, my family and I. But because I want you to say goodbye to the guests with me for the final moment, for the final morning. What I've done for the last 4 years every morning is said, because I work a lot of the overnights, 9 out of 14 a week, is I say, see you later, have a great day, see you tonight. Saturday night, that last comment will not be all said. If you don't think that's gut-wrenching, Monday, I work for Hiawatha Valley Mental Health as my day job. My agency gives us mental health days. It is always the day after we close. It is very hard for me to leave my home a couple days after we close. It is a very tough thing watching people go into our community. So my ask is this, to please show up, please say goodbye to them, and then Saturday night, when you go to bed, I want you to think about the guests that you see walk off. If you're not there, I want you to imagine them. Right now, there's 9. Many of them are vets. 2 of them are 18. I want you to imagine where they are going to bed Saturday night as you crawl into your bed. Now, this is the easy part. I don't want you to justify why you get to crawl into your bed. I won't justify why I crawl. That's easy. You can say, I work hard, I earn this. That's easy. I won't ask you to do the easy, to just think, maybe they don't deserve this. I'm going to simply ask you the hard. The 7 of you sitting there have the power to make this happen for up to 48 individuals and families. I want you to do the hard. I want you, as you're lying there, to imagine where they're lying. How many of them are in Cornerstone's hallway? How many of them are in the staircase? Do you know that seniority, the strata, the creme de la creme of our homeless, they get the upper echelon of the staircase of Cornerstone. That's how some designate if they're the kind of the higher echelon of the homeless, the higher up in the staircase, because it's warmer. I want you to think of, because I'm old, I can't make it through the night, I get up a time or two to use the bathroom. So do they. I've watched them for 4 years, multiple times a night. Where will they do that now? So I want you please to not think about maybe make a choice tonight if you're on the fence, but Saturday night, please think about that. And then in March, when Leah comes back with her proposal, think about that again. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Beth has her hand up too.
Beth?
Beth Braden, Ward 2. I strongly support Leah. I've worked with Three Rivers for many years. Myself too, a long time ago, I was homeless, so I know it's not easy. And having those extra units, I was really excited about, as well as I call it another resource hub, is what I call it. I know it's a different name. But Liz is right too, and I support her in many ways. I've brought her many people. And I commend her on what she does. And it is hard, and it's even some of the people that she has now have called me. And I work with many hats regarding the homelessness, from Red Wing Area Homeless Shelter Committee to Salvation Army. I do the hotel vouchers. I work with people that come out of the jail. I commend Chief Rohr on many of his staff calling me, and they can call me day or night, and I really appreciate that too. But it is tough, and I know it's a lot on your shoulders too, to consider this. This is really well needed for many, many years. I also work with Yellow Ribbon. I'm their homeless coordinator. I've been doing this now for about 3 months now. I work with Lancel for over almost 3.5 years. And trust me, it's tough too in his faces as well to see when he has to make decisions on what to do with the veterans as well. And some of the reasons are they could be where they were dishonorable instead of honorable. And I go through this a lot too, working with these people. It makes it very difficult. As well as some of the people too, for single people that come out of jail, it's difficult. I mean, they literally come out, walk the streets. I see them too, many a days, many a nights, in many different places. I'm lucky tonight too, I received a phone call prior to this of somebody that actually wants to ride with me and experience that. And I know Patricia had the experience with riding me quite a few times on seeing what it's like. And I have also offered that to you guys to ride with me sometime and fly with me sometime, I call it, at night, because it will open your eyes to what you see. And I'm not afraid to be out there. And the other thing I was going to say is it's true about the drones. I do see those. I have reported those too as well. But they are getting a little scary too to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. We'll see you back in March, 2 days away. Thank you. We'll move on to 10B, which is to consider a motion to accept the plans developed for the LaGrange Park Restoration Project.
Hello, Council, Mayor. Patrick Raymaker, Deputy Director of Buildings and Grounds for Public Works. I don't know, hopefully everybody saw the plans, big set of plans. Couple of years in the making. Started with a feasibility study a couple of years ago, identifying the deficiencies of LaGrange Park. Been working with HKGI for the last year to put these plans together. A little sticker shock there, pretty big bill, estimated cost. The plans in large don't change the park much. It's correcting a lot of deficiencies, a lot of tuck pointing. Our top caps are beginning to really show age. The fountain needs a lot of work, a lot of cracking, and also upgrades to the lighting systems as well as the fountain controls. Generally, just a lot of due maintenance to bring the park back up to the standard we would like to see it at. Bring it in line with John Ridge Park, Central Park, the downtown core with Main Street. Bring it back to the luster that it once was. We also been getting some requests by Red Wing Shoe as it's kind of their entrance into the Riverfront Center to make some improvements to that space as well. So that space is used quite a bit. Wedding photos, senior pictures. A lot of people to just find a quiet space in the downtown core. Really one of our centerpiece parks downtown. So, like I said, big sticker shock. Lots of work to do. Very labor intensive once we get to it. So I'm not sure if you had a chance to take a look at the plans, but yeah, I'm here for any questions.
Any questions?
So was there any input from citizens or whatever? Is this just an architect?
We worked a little bit with the Riverfront Center. In large, we're not changing a lot to the original design of the park. So no, we didn't have much community input on that. Because we're really not changing the field, just trying to update everything that we feel should be updated.
Evan, did you want to?
Yeah, quick. So this is probably a little bit more for Marshall, just in case, and it would be for Ron. But I guess I just would wonder, would this be available for a funding request at all?
And I think Ron has discussed this with the council before too. This is a tough one, simply due to the nature of the project. So while it would be eligible, would it rate well against other projects? We have concerns with that, and I think Ron's expressed the same previously.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say, kind of adding to Ron's question, we did review it at the Heritage Preservation. And kind of, I know some of the comments were in there about making sure we got the basket still up and some talk about the limestone and different things, which would only probably add to the cost. But I know it is sticker shock. I mean, I think all of us probably felt that way. And I just didn't know as we move forward, do you see any alternatives to bring the cost down while still keeping the integrity of the park?
There is some lighting that could be room. There's tree up lighting in there. There's different fountain lighting that could be removed to bring some of that stuff down. Some of the landscaping, we've tried to replace the traditional turf with more perennials, which added a little bit of cost to it. But then at the same time, we'll bring down labor in the long run on some of those things too. But a lot of it would be the lighting that could come out of there if we needed to bring that down.
Well, I know we even kind of discussed, like, if we talked about the signage a lot and how, you know, to make it a little better, to make it really know where you are, you know, maybe that's something that we could get donations for. And I don't know how we necessarily get that out to the public, but, maybe it just says through the commission in general, because I know we discussed it quite a bit there, I thought.
I think there's opportunities out there for donations, absolutely. Since we've just presented the plan here, we have not approached anybody on that, but.
Thanks.
I just have a question. Any idea when this plan was put in, or when it was built?
The park was built in 1987.
87?
Yeah.
And if I recall, I think we did a fall tour a couple of years ago, and this was on the list to the fall tour. And I think part of the question and part of why we wanted to at least get these estimates was because there was a donor who was possibly interested, if I recall correctly. And I think John Rich the donor, I think, helped to fund some of the John Rich repairs. But I think some of this conversation came from that, if I'm not recalling correctly.
There may be that opportunity out there. That was a few years ago, yeah.
That's my figure, so that might happen then.
Other questions?
What if we don't do anything?
We can continue doing maintenance. The top caps are going to be a struggle because there is rebar showing, which could be potential risk for cut hands, those sort of things. There's always general maintenance items we can do to keep it from totally falling apart. The tuck pointing could potentially get worse and worse and lead to bigger masonry issues. But it can be maintained for a few more years, yes.
So with the rising cost of everything, it would certainly seem to be more prudent to do this now?
To do it all at once, probably more prudent, yes, but.
Okay, thank you.
Just to expand on that just a little bit, the park as currently constructed would not meet today's ADA standards. The surfacing does not meet ADA standards, so that's another impending challenge we have. That any repair work we do there, we have to make some significant changes, and you get into how far you go incorporating a larger project and a small project into a larger project, all those kinds of things. And ADA plays a factor in so many things we do.
You'll see a big price tag on the railing as well, so that doesn't meet current standards. There's a choke risk on the top cap railing, which is why there's a big number on that railing. The handrails along the waterfall feature need to either have a metal mid bar installed on them or replaced, which by the time you do labor and sandblasting and repainting, you might as well just replace the whole thing. So you'll see big prices on those type of things too. So anytime we touch like a top rail, we should be replacing that metal railing as well. So.
I'll make a motion to accept plans developed for the LaGrange Park Restoration Project prepared by HKG. Aye.
Second.
So we have a motion by Becky, second by Evan, to accept the plans developed for the LaGrange Park Restoration Project prepared by Wazington Foodler Group.
I was just going to add for discussion that I didn't jump on top of you, but I'll just say, I mean, for the sake of looking at grants or looking at donors, I think that's the first step is to just accept the plans. So I think obviously that's the phase we're in, is accept the plans and then see what happens.
Is that what's requested?
This is just to accept the plans.
Right.
Yeah, this doesn't give any money.
What I was reading says no action necessary, so.
No, I think we have to accept the plans as they're presented.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps going forward to look for funding from places. So we have a motion by Becky, second by Evan. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Magic.
How about taking a 10-minute break? All right, we'll take a 10-minute break, come back at 8:33. We'll move on to item 10C on our agenda this evening. It's a motion
Consider a motion to adopt resolution number 7852, amending the rules of order and procedures for the city council in accordance with the city charter section 5.04.
If you would prefer, I'd like to, or if you're okay, I'd like to walk through these changes, proposed changes. So if you remember back when we did the rules, or the organizational meeting, we adopted, or we had proposed rules of order. And we did get some suggested changes from a local citizen, Carol Overland, who I believe is online, and has said she has comments or questions. Last week, a committee of council members sat down and walked through the proposed changes by Carol. And if you recall, we did have comments also from our city attorney. And so we talked through each one of those, and in the end came up with a series of proposed changes. So the first one on the track changes, page 1 is just the housekeeping change. That's the, if you do approve this resolution, it supersedes the old one, so that's why that number's in there. On page 2, under 5C, there is language to talk about virtual meetings. And so you heard some comments tonight earlier about that. That's one, this language would then say that we do not have virtual public comments. People would provide those by email or through being in the city council chambers. Under 5D, under the statement of intent, we added language so that the council president would determine whether that was part of the agenda. And I did note that there are several boards and commissions who routinely read the statement of intent. There are some who only read it at their annual meeting, and there's some who do not. So we did make that an option for them so they can choose whether they read it or not. Moving on, number 7, under 5D, the listing of the agenda, we switched the presentation and public comment because we have been providing for presentations first, so that just makes sense to explain that order. If you move to page 4, number 10, as we looked at that language, we thought it was really dated because under no circumstances, I believe, would we go out and find a council member if we needed a quorum. So we changed that to reflect the way that we operate now. So if a quorum is not present, a majority of the members present may cancel the meeting. So I don't remember that happening except for one time, and I think that was a Board of Equalization meeting where we didn't have a quorum. Otherwise, generally, people call in, and if we know in advance, we can postpone that meeting and do a special meeting. On page 5, number 16, this also changes the language to reflect the way that we operate. This has been our practice. So normally, if there's a roll call, a vote, and it's somewhat equal with the ayes and nays, the council president will say, okay, I want a roll call vote. But it's always after both the ayes and the nays are stated. So it's, and the language before was you had to ask for that after the aye vote, but not before, and before the nay vote, which, you know, that's just not the way we've done it. So this language, we checked in with our city attorney, this language is appropriate, and so we modified that. And then the last one was to clarify, I guess last year, we took the Youth Commission and the Harbor Commission and turned them into committees. So we added language to differentiate between, those are committees, but they're not the direct committees of the city council. So the council has standing committees and has the ability to do ad hoc committees. That is what we're talking about in the rules of order. We're not talking about the committees that are under our board and commission and committee policy. So that was why section number 27 was added. So on each of these, I did check in with the city attorney. They're fine. The one thing I did want to point out is under 5C, when I was doing the strikeout language, some of the language in here that is not struck out was not in the old one. So this is more than just new language and newly struck out language. That's not very clear, but what I wanted to tell you is this language that's in paragraph C is a little bit different in that we're proposing to keep language that wasn't in there before. So this is what, if you look at the one where it's accepted, that is what we're proposing. So that is all I had as far as a high level. I can answer questions, or you can just discuss these one by one. They are each standalone. You don't have to take it as an entire proposal. It's each one stands alone.
I'll start off with a couple of questions if that's okay. Kind of on the idea of public comment. Can you maybe state, is public comment legally, do we have to do it? And then secondly, when did we start doing the virtual public comment?
I don't think you have to do public comment. I think that's an option of every government entity. The virtual started when we went to virtual meetings with COVID. So that has been a newer addition to our agenda.
Thank you.
We do have a number of people that want to speak. You want to hear what they have to speak before we discuss?
Yeah. Great.
Okay, so we'll start with Martha Harris. You're virtual. Need bigger print on her, bolder. I can't read that far. If you're on mic.
All right. Thank you, council members, staff, and Mayor Wilson for letting me speak again tonight, virtually. I am speaking to 5C. I would like for you to continue to allow virtual attendees to talk in council meetings as I am now for the following reasons. One, it would close a door to communication. Decreasing access can decrease the opportunity for your constituents to participate in matters of our community. And two, concerns of disease transmission. When folks have that scratchy throat or some body aches, they will not practice best practices in public health recommendations and stay home. When they're passionate about something, they will come through that door to speak. Three, folks who have missed their bus, or perhaps they go out to start their car and it won't start, are unable to get to the meeting and may miss the 3 o'clock deadline. And I too wanted to be at this meeting tonight with many of my friends that I've met through pickleball. And unfortunately, this morning when I headed out, the rear end of my car as I exited my driveway slid around and was headed down the road backwards on our icy hill. We have two different contractors that service our roads between my home and access to Highway 61 to come into town. One of the contractors evidently had plenty of sand and gravel. Another section of my road, over 1 mile downhill, was still iced over when my husband came home this afternoon. And therefore, I was not going to leave the house tonight in order to come to the meeting because it was not safe for me. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be Terry Cook. Mute yourself.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. My name is Terry Cook and I live in Ward 3. Sorry, it's a recent move. I got my notes here. I wanted to share my concerns regarding the proposed changes to the rules. Great effort has been put into developing ways to increase public input into decisions that will ultimately dictate our futures. An engaged public will always give you better buy-in. During the campaign, many of you mentioned that you and or your neighbors did not feel heard at council meetings in the past. So I ask you, if you want your constituents to be heard and feel heard, wouldn't it make more sense to invite their comments rather than eliminate options for participation? If you want a more robust conversation or a stronger buy-in, why would these proposed changes be coming out of a private meeting rather than a public forum? I guess it's up to the council to talk about that part. I urge you also to consider keeping the statement of intent as a standard agenda item for the council. There was a strong purpose behind initiating this. Do you want respect and civility at the meetings? That's what that statement indicates. And it reminds us all at the beginning of the meeting that we're here to do the business, we're here to work respectfully and civilly. And we've seen what it's like when it doesn't go that way. So why not keep it in and keep that reminder in front of us that you are a civil, respectful body and you expect that in return from us. I think that could go a long way in both directions for sharing our ideas back and forth. I feel as though we'd be going backwards if we adopted those two particular changes. Just imagine you've got something big coming up and you feel very strongly about something and it's going to impact your neighbors and you. Wouldn't you want full disclosure, open communication, full and robust conversation regarding it? So that way everyone feels a part and everyone then has that buy-in. You build a stronger community when everyone's a part of that community. So, and that's why I think the virtual conversation is so impactful. And I know Martha said why she couldn't be here in person, but respectfully, that's no one's business. If I can't make it to the meeting for whatever reason, I shouldn't have to share that reasoning with anyone that I don't want to share it with. I respect what you do, but I expect you to respect what we do and what we as a citizenry have to offer. Imagine the things we could do together if we worked together. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Mueller, would you like to speak on this? Alan, would you like to speak on this?
Alan Miller, 1110 West Avenue, and a couple of preliminaries. The last time I stood at this podium a few weeks ago, I commented that the hearing aid devices were not present, and they still aren't, okay? I don't know why, but if you look at the last page of the agenda, it says, quote, hearing assistance devices are available during meetings, unquote. So I repeat my recommendation that you find the ones that we already own or buy some new ones or do whatever is necessary to live up to this accessibility point. Second preliminary, I talked a little bit earlier about charging stations, and I hope I did not give anyone the impression that I thought we don't need more charging stations. Electrification of transport is like a basic part of any serious effort to abate climate change. The issue is that utility regulatory matters tend to be very complicated and mostly understood by the utilities themselves. And the devil is in those details, and you need to make an effort to understand them before commenting. Okay, I'm really up here to talk about agenda item 10C, which is rules of order and procedure. And like the previous witnesses, I think I am kind of baffled as to why this council would want to deny people an opportunity to testify virtually, is the term used in the regulation. But it's ironic that we're discussing this at a night when we've got wet ice all over town. And I imagine that we all know somebody who's fallen and broken their hip or broken their head by falling. Winter's a little bit dangerous in Minnesota in that respect. So just from that point of view, your proposal to not allow people to participate remotely is totally inappropriate. And And I would truly appreciate knowing what the reasoning is, what the other side of the story is, if there is one. Because it doesn't make any sense unless one supposes that the intent of the council is to make public participation more difficult. And it does seem to me, I've lived in Red Wing for 15 years, and I've commented fairly often to this council and to the Charter Commission and to other bodies about the importance of strengthening public participation. We live in times when democracy is under attack, and there are lots of things we can do. So why have you rolled out this document which attempts to put us in reverse? And I'm not going to go through all of the objectionable phrasing here, but some of the things that I mentioned in the past is a good faith public notice means put on the website. It doesn't mean post it on a bulletin board in the attic of this building or something like that. And there are lots of other examples. Carol has identified some of them, and maybe she's going to talk about that some more. But I would urge you not to move ahead with the adoption of this resolution, which would alter the rules of procedure and order and weaken the ability of Red Wing residents to participate in their own government. That's disgraceful. Frankly, the authors of this document, in my opinion, should be ashamed of themselves. Common sense tells us that it's a step in the wrong direction. So I'm done unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Alan. Oh. Thank you. Overland, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
You bet I would. Carol Overland, Ward 2. Oh, there we go. Okay. I first want to state that at the last meeting that you had that I attended virtually, we were up at a cabin at Lake Vermilion State Park. I participate remotely often at the Public Utilities Commission. Court hearings are now virtual. There are also Public Service Commission in Wisconsin, Minnesota here. So much is virtual now, and it really does help people weigh in. And so I saw this, and as you know, I had been a part of the Citizens Assembly that suggested many specific things to increase participation, to open meetings up and to have better meetings. That was a goal. And so many of the city's plans now, plans that you should know of, specifically seek to encourage and increase public participation. So what the heck are you doing? You're turning it around. We have a situation here where 4 self-appointed arbiters of participation drew up this resolution. From what I can see, there's not even input from our community engagement specialist. That is the title of Michelle Lee's job. I think that you should ask her to weigh in on this because that's the job, community engagement specialist. You were meeting in private and you didn't move forward with any of the things that would facilitate participation. All you've done is write up a resolution prohibiting virtual comments, eliminating the statement of intent, making it more difficult. And while the previous speakers, who I would like to underline what they said, Martha Harris, Terry Cook, and Alan Muller, they're very generous in their discussing what they think is happening here from a lawyerly standpoint and looking at inferences. It's pretty clear to me that what you're trying to do is to limit participation, especially following the attempt to eliminate virtual meetings completely. This is, yes, Alan said, yes, this is disgraceful. It's crucial that comments be allowed in any way possible. And remember in the comments, the proposals I made, I stressed that it would be good to have a written, clear option encouraging people to send emails before the meeting so that you have time to think about it. And rather than spring things on you on the spur of the moment during the meeting. And that's just a common sense kind of thing. Trying to make it clear ahead of time so people can figure out where they stand on something. But anyway, this proposal, just wow and just no, because it looks very clear to me that the intent is to shut people down and to limit participation, and that's not okay. Not okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this? Would you like to go through the changes line by line, or how would you like to take this? Evan?
Well, I'd like to echo some of what I heard here. Rules of procedure are for their entire council. There are rules of procedure. And I don't think it's appropriate to have a situation in which that discussion happens with a group of people and not the entire council as a body. I think that is inappropriate. It bothers me a lot. It bothers me a lot. Those are not, that's all our rules of procedure. We all operate under. We all have a voice in, and we all need to talk real time with each other about those changes. I don't think that's a lot to ask. I really do think that is very, very important. So procedurally, I'm already irritated.
Thank you. It's no different than how I was treated for 4 years. I was left out of a lot of things. So
We did not make decisions about the.
We haven't made a decision here. That's why it's here to vote on tonight. If we don't want to vote on it, we don't have to vote on it.
I take offense to the fact that people in the public are under the impression there was a secret meeting. It was an agenda meeting, which is an open meeting and open to the public. You could have been there if you wanted to. You know when it is. Anybody could have been there on this council.
Is this
Look, this document, we received the changes, the recommended changes. It was simply referred to legal counsel for a review. It came back to the agenda meeting, and we went through it line by line and made whatever, agreed or disagreed with what our legal counsel thought. So there's nothing secretive about it, and it's open for discussion. Talk about it.
I have never ever seen an agenda item that went through line by line review of the resolution. Never seen that. Never seen that.
Okay, go first.
Well, I just want to clarify, it was the agenda team, but it wasn't as part of the agenda meeting. We did that in a separate meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a separate.
It was a separate.
Not a publicly noticed.
Correct.
Meeting yet.
Stand corrected.
We couldn't all attend because it's not a publicly noticed meeting.
Well, there's nothing, it's open for discussion, so share your thoughts.
Well, my question, I'll start with the first question is why tell the committee, this apparently a committee, did we discuss creating a committee to review these as a council? I mean, we do that from time to time, talk about creating ad hoc committees to do a study or a dive. Was that a conversation that happened that I just missed somehow?
There was no committee, it was the leadership team that dealt with it. We simply went through the documentation, and I think you received the same thing.
Well, so I'm asking, did we as a council establish a committee to review this?
That's what we're doing right now.
No, we're having a public discussion right now. I'm asking if we had a committee. I'm asking President Bicey if we had, okay, thank you. That was the question I was asking. So, having said that, it does say in the write-up that a committee of council members met on this and made some recommendations. My questions are to the committee to explain why these decisions were made. I'd like to know why the intent is optional. Some of them are obviously cleanup things. I'd like to know why the virtual meeting is changed, and I'd like to know what conversation took place regarding Ms. Overland's comments. I mean, none of her comments are incorporated into this. And so I feel like I'm really left out on that conversation, and I'd like to start there. What we're presented. I don't mind making a couple of comments in the aspect of, so on the statement of intent, I think many of us believe, and I'll speak for myself, so I don't mean to speak for Kim or Don, but you know, in my experience in the last year of you guys saying the statement of intent, I didn't see a lot of respect and dignity happen, so I kind of felt like it was a lot of words and maybe not action happening, and I felt like it made sense for the president of each committee or commission to decide if they wanted to do it or not, what was best for their group of people. So I'll stick with that one. And then second, on the virtual, I believe that the council is here to do business, and public comment is not legally binding. We have done our gracious part of allowing and asking for public participation and public comment, but we're here to do business, in my opinion. And so we have public comment. They can email, they can come to the stand and speak to us, but in my opinion, watching again for the last year, the virtual content is not extremely usable or business-like and doesn't work well. And I just think in this day and age, virtual participation and engagement is awful. I think we all know it from COVID, which it started with virtual. It started in COVID. We haven't been doing this for like 15 years. Virtual and going on the screen is not conducive to good engagement. I would rather have a face-to-face with people being here, or a true community group talking to each other one-on-one, talking to each other and really seeing each other's faces and body language, and that to me is public participation. And I forget, I think with the last one. What's the last question you had on that one? What were the results of the recommendations that Ms. Overland had given us? We took Carol's, we took our legal counsel, and we went one by one and took the time to do that. And everybody got Carol's comments, and anybody else that would have commented on this subject. I don't think one person in our community was taken more highly or at a lower end than anybody else. I'm not following that comment. I don't understand what you mean. I guess I don't understand why Carol's comments on this would make any difference than anybody else's, whether Patricia or Martha's or anybody's. So we were given that, all of us as a council, Carol's comments. So we took our legal counsel and Carol's comments together with our current rules of orders and went one by one and decided, I believe we did take a couple of her comments, and again, she helped us see some clarity and maybe some misunderstanding. So I do believe we took a couple of her ideas. I don't have in my notes exactly which two, but we took a lot of time to do this, mainly because we are the Executive Leadership Committee. We were elected in a majority way, and that was our direction. I know that Councilmember Bicey, our president, I think spoke with each of you. You guys knew that when you're president, this is what happens. You get to decide how things are going to be done. I don't follow. Spoke with each of us about what? That might be a wrong way of saying it, but in the essence of like, this is, you know, whether it's a statement of intent or something like these were going to be decided tonight. We're going to talk about it as a group. That's why I believe we're here tonight. Nobody's limiting discussion. Is there an executive committee? No. Okay. I may maybe a we used to call it an executive committee maybe on school or something, but you know, like a agenda committee to me is like an executive committee. Okay. So I might be misusing words, but because an agenda committee is the committee that meets to go over the agenda, and this is separate. So is that traditionally how it's been done in the past? Yes. Okay.
I would add that, you know, for the most part, most virtual meetings ended with COVID, and that is over with. You know, I mean, the main thing to me is I think a person can relay a whole lot more to us standing at the lectern there than they can over virtual. And I look at just how well the virtuals work for our school kids. And I think it's not that well. So, you know, I don't see it that big a deal. We can communicate with people. They can write to us. They can call us. There's many ways that they can communicate with us if they want to. We're still going to be streaming. And one of the other issues that I ran into is in trying to watch a lot of meetings from the commissions, they have so much trouble getting people to be able to log on that several times I witnessed where they just had to, they couldn't get them here. So, you know, if it's a technical issue, I don't know, but I don't know that it's that critical.
Oh, my entire world works. Okay, sorry.
In response to what I'm hearing people say, and I don't have the history here, so I know that when I ran for this seat, one of the things I wanted to do was engage more people. And when I see us saying that we don't want to do this because this isn't what we used to do, I feel like that's saying I don't want certain people to participate because they can't be here. And I know that there are a lot of people in my ward who don't have cars, but they have a cell phone because everyone has a cell phone. So they can log on to a meeting and they can be present, even if they can't get here because they walk everywhere. So if I can't get here, then I'm invited to not participate. I'm invited to not be part of this. And I think that, yes, I agree, face-to-face is great. And I think that virtual participation is critical in this day and age. This isn't exclusively virtual participation. This is both and. This is in person and virtual. Locking people out, I think, is quite frankly, it bothers me a lot. And I feel like it's trying to silence voices of people that maybe aren't able to be here. Even if they were here in person, you know, and I saw a lot of name calling from people from our community attacking the council. So I feel like something, and I saw it, and it made me physically uncomfortable and sick because people from the community were yelling, this is important. This is important for us to remember and to speak about every single time because repetition helps us remember what we're here to do. And we are here to do the business. We are here to do the business to represent the public with the public. And if we aren't including the public as part of our process, we're missing the ball. And I think that we're becoming exclusive, and I'm not interested in having a club that does business in secret. I'm not interested in being just here alone. I'm interested in engaging the maximum number of people possible, and I think it's a both and proposition, and for those reasons, I do not support 5C changes here. I also think that I don't support changing 5D, statement of intent, because I think it's important that we remember that we have to remind people that this is about all of us. It's not about me, it's about all of us. It's not about any one of us or a small group of us that gets to make decisions. I think that in the case of this, we should have gone through this line by line as a whole group. And yeah, it's gonna take some time. And I would have appreciated an invitation to that meeting because I would have come. But I wasn't invited. And I'm a member of the council, and my voice is important too. And I don't feel like I'm important or valued when a group of people get together and they put together a proposal, a resolution that I didn't get to have any say or voice in. And that's just me talking about, and I get to sit up here with all of y'all. And I don't have this history, and I don't feel comfortable with this being here like this, and not having been invited to that meeting. I would have gone. That's all I have.
I think Evan was next. Oh, no, I have one Evan, so go ahead. Sure, you go ahead. In the case of the virtual meetings, my business has completely changed. The world has completely changed. And whether or not COVID is here or not, we're going to disagree about that. But the world has changed. The technology has moved past it. And the genie is out of the bottle. We do have this tool, and I think it makes, to Vicky's point, we should utilize it. Why wouldn't we utilize it? Why would we go backwards? Because it's not causing any problem. And to the degree that there are some minor problems with a border commission, in terms of reaching this body, which is where it really stands and where the interest really is, I see no reason to preclude a tool that has been utilized and continues to be utilized. I mean, it's like saying, oh, well, we have landlines, but hey, these cell phones, they're just a fad. We should just move past those and go back to landlines. The technology has changed. Like it or not, my entire business is in, I don't even know how many, it's not a huge company, and we are in a bunch of states and countries all over the country. And how do we communicate? How do we interact? We are all building product together. We are doing intense technical work, business together. And we can manage that online. And I don't understand why we would take that tool away at all.
Yeah, so the only concern I have is 5C as well. I do most of my work virtually for my job. Most of the comments I've gotten about this issue, people want to have that availability to do this. But I would really like to see it be the exception rather than the rule that you would comment virtually. I think people should get here, we should get out from behind our keyboards, interact as individuals in the public. As we walk in the door, we walk through the lobby, you're going to get other people's opinions. You can start talking instead of just presenting, and what you want to say about a particular issue. You get to debate it with somebody else, either before or after the meeting, whatever. So for me, I don't think that the virtual comments is something that we should get rid of.
I talked to a lot of people at the conference this weekend that I went to. None of them are continuing to do the virtual meeting that I talked to, and I talked to more than 30 of them. They've all gone back to in-person meetings and eliminated the virtual because of the staff issues they had, always staffing it, as well as they felt that you should be in person. And with that, I'll make a motion we table this until we can have a workshop and discuss it and go through it line by line. Second. The motion by myself, Kim, second by Evan, to table 10C until we can have a workshop on it. Go through it line by line. All in favor? 10C or the whole thing?
10C is the title, general.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The general.
So resolution 785. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to communication items this evening. First one is council comments, and my first comment is, where are our hearing devices? Hearing devices.
I'm sorry, our AV techs normally put those out and they just neglected to do that. We do have them, we have put batteries there to keep them, but we just forgot to put them out.
Can we get it as a checklist item so we don't hear about this again?
Yes.
Thank you. Other comment is, I'm totally impressed with our city snow crews.
Yeah.
My neighbors, we're thankful. They got out. And for the first time, they were more pleased with the city than our snow removal crew that comes in and cleans out our driveways, which they do a good job. And you guys did an awesome job. The streets are clean. I was able to get down the hill without sliding sideways. And so let the crews know that they did a great job, and we really appreciate them.
I'll let them know. Thank you.
Any others?
Can I just piggyback on your suggestion with the hearing devices, that maybe we could also include just a note on the table that says that if they're missing, to contact city staff and we could retrieve them, just in case things fall short.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Vicki?
And I'll echo your comment about snow removal, because I was in one of those trucks. And I had said, and Sean Blaney said, well, if you ever want to do a ride along, I said, heck yeah. So I just want to say how impressed I am. I learned so much about the city. I learned about how much money it costs us to put out salt, and how the city is so conservative, and how they're using our resources, and how they're so mindful of trying to be as responsible as possible. And I stand amazed at the quality of our staff. And I just consider myself privileged. First of all, getting into that big fat plow truck was really fun at 3 a.m. And so thank you for that opportunity. And I can't say enough good things about the professionalism of our staff.
They're truly amazing, and I just have to say that the events have come in such a weird way this season, and you guys make it look easy. I hear from other communities, and I don't know. I don't even know how you do it. So some of the time, and the 3 a.m. comment reminded me of something. We attended, many of us, the League of Minnesota Cities conference, and I really want to mention this because I want to talk to my fire chief a little about it. But, so we're at the conference at 3 a.m. in the morning. The fire alarm at the conference goes off. So we all have to trundle out, groggy, deep in REM sleep, out in the hallway. Then we get shuffled outside because, you know, it's a fire event. And in this fire event, where we're standing around, hundreds and hundreds of elected leaders from all over the state, right, just standing around, we never saw a fire person. And I thought to myself, again, we have a great staff, because I could not imagine that someone wouldn't have come with hundreds of elected leaders and let them maybe know that things were under control. Just a point. So thank you to all you guys. Even though I know you haven't been in this situation yet, I know you do better.
Speaking on that item, maybe at the next meeting, would we want to add an item to report out on our learnings from our conferences? That'll be after everybody has had the opportunity to attend.
If it happened, I forgot most of it by then.
I'm not prepared to say anything now. I don't think I was really thinking about it, but often we do report out on the conferences, so.
That was very good.
You guys missed the best speaker. We had him.
No, they didn't.
No, we had the best speaker over the advanced scare. We had on how
the improv.
Yeah, the improv. Yeah.
Oh.
Right. Anyone else? Kate?
On the status, I really wanted to just get some feedback from you on the letter regarding Excel. And so there were copies out on the table if anybody wants it, but it was the email that I got from Ross Lexfold. And then also attached was the public hearing notice. And Ross's question, and he was saying, I know you guys are passionate about EV programs, just wondering if you'd be willing to make public comments. We don't have to wordsmith those tonight, but if you are interested, we can put together some comments for you to consider, and then we can submit those at a later date.
I mean, I'll just chime in that I am extremely supportive of the electric vehicle program and Excel's advocacy. But given the comments that we heard, I'd like to just learn a little bit more. Is there a way that we can maybe see what a draft might look like, or just learn a little bit more about the other side of the issue? But in general, I think I looked at this and I'm in support of the advancement of more charging infrastructure.
Kevin?
Well, one of the things I just looked back in a lot of our documents, and our climate action work plan, our 2040 plan, both mention supporting initiatives in these spaces. And again, I would add that there's things we can do just to mention that, not necessarily be specific. I did attend a kind of a look at this program from Excel, and I was encouraged by a lot of the participants are very interested in issues of equity and making sure that they're not charging deserts and a lot of other issues. So I think they've approached a kind of an interesting position. It's a kind of a pilot project anyways, as I read it. And one of the people I met there was from Our Car, and they were very supportive of the program, and they're developing programs where they're putting Our Cars into multi-tenant housing of various sorts across the city up there, and so that they'll be EVs and they'll have a charging infrastructure, so people, again, another mode of transportation that allows people to not own and continue to operate a car. So I thought there was a lot there, and I thought we could come to some language that would just already support a lot of our initiatives that we've already committed to.
So I'm personally not in support of this. It's, ratepayers end up subsidizing, electric car owners. So, but that's my personal opinion. A regulated monopoly where we don't have a choice, we can't change our electric company if we don't like their policies.
I know I've been contacted by people in the petroleum industry that have a great interest in this, and they're going to be on board with this because it's coming. We know that. So the locations and the subsidies that are out there, they want to work together with the utilities on this. So it's coming slowly. It's not going to be a fast track deal to work it out. But so yeah, it's be interesting. So I'm going to be at in April some meetings. We're going to have me in there. We're going to discuss that further. So I'll come back with some ideas on that too. That they want to become involved with it too. So can some of us sign for it and others not, or
I think you could have some people sign.
Well, if you want to vote on it as a council,
is it something we need to vote on the next meeting, or is there time? Because
Are you asking for anything here?
You have time, I think you have until April 4th or the first week of April to submit comments. We have time at the next meeting. We could draft something.
okay, let's do that. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, no.
And, no further business. Oh, no, hold it.
We had a closed session tonight.
The next item on the agenda is a preliminary consideration of allegations against individuals subject to the council's authority. The open meeting law, Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 2B states that the council shall close a meeting for the preliminary consideration of allegations against an individual subject to its authority. During the closed meeting, the council will discuss the allegations and what, if any, action will be taken as a result of the allegations. Accordingly, pursuant to the law that I have cited, I will hereby entertain a motion that this meeting be closed for the primary consideration of allegations against individuals subject to the council's authority.
So move.
Second.
A motion by Don, second by Janie. Meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Close.
Make a motion, we go back into open session.
Second.
Motion by Don, second by Janie to go into open session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're in open session. Council has met in closed session and provided the attorney directions on how to proceed. Being no further business, we are adjourned.